Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Alrighty, so 2025 is officially over and it is now time to go through everything that I read and do a yearly wrap up. We got a lot to cover and I don't want to be here all night and neither do you, so let's just get started and get right on into it. Let's start off in January. I started off the year with Circe by Madeline Miller. This adult fantasy is a Greek mythology retelling of the sorceress Circe and her life before, during, and after her role in the Odyssey. It explores her life among the gods, being outcast, becoming a mother, and finding love. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, do I typically have like an interest in Greek mythology? Not really, never have, probably never will, but I do enjoy Madeline Miller's writing. And do I like this as much as Song of Achilles? No, I didn't, but I did enjoy it. I like the writing, I like the plot, I like Cersei as a character. I loved following her journey and all the different ways that it went. I will say that the ending was kind of rushed in my opinion. Like it really felt like there wasn't really an ending, but we kind of had to make something up to get an ending. So yeah. And also like the last like I want to say like 15% or so it did kind of give Sweet Home Alabama. I won't lie, like I know that they're not blood related, but like it was kind of giving Sweet Home Alabama, just a little bit. And anyway, let's move on. Next is Lunar Love by Lauren Kang Jessen. This adult romance is about this woman who owns a matchmaking service based on the Chinese zodiac system. Some tech bro comes into town launching a dating app based on the Chinese zodiacs, and our main lady is not happy about this app stepping on her business. So her and the tech bro decide the best way to figure out whose matchmaking business is better is to find each other a date, and whoever falls in love first has to admit the other person is better at matchmaking. Only, what if they fall for each other instead? And I personally DNF'd this one. Yeah, I did. Here's the thing. I'm just not into overly quirky main characters, and this one had a very, very quirky main character. Yeah, the thing about overly quirky main characters is I just really find their antics annoying at a certain point, and I'm just like, chill. Like, you need to chill. Like, stop. Please stop. Like, so, like, it's just a personal preference thing. Like, quirky main characters are for somebody, they're just not for me. Next is The Bitter End by Alexa Dunn. This YA thriller is about this group of teens who go on a school trip to the mountains only to get snowed in at their cabin. Soon they get the creeping realization that someone among them is a killer as they start getting offed one by one, so time is of the essence to catch the murderer before everyone meets their bitter end. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. Oh my god, this was so good. The tension, the anger, the spite, the venomous anger crawling through every single person here. I loved it. It kept me on my toes guessing as to like who was the killer and stuff like that as like the pieces slowly started to come together. Like here's the thing, if you are looking for like a fun, fast-paced, bitchy YA thriller for the wintertime, this is perfect. I highly recommend this. It's so good. Next is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Most people view this as a classic romance novel. I personally think it's more of a coming of age story about a young woman coming into maturity by expanding her view of the world and people around her. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Alrighty, let me get my most controversial opinion out of the window first. Was I head over heels gaga about Elizabeth and Darcy? No, I was not. I was not in all honesty. Like they were fine, but in all honesty, I was more invested in the sisters' relationship. I really, really was. Like, sorry, but anyway. And having said that, I really enjoyed this. I really, really did. This was so freaking good. I love the writing. I loved following Elizabeth on her arc, growing into adulthood. I loved the drama of it too. Like, and I really liked the dynamics between the different characters of like how everyone interacted with each other. It was just really, really good, y'all. It really, really was. I see the hype for this one. Not exactly in the same way that like most people hype up this book, but like in my own special way. I really do love and hype up this book in my own special way. Next is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. This adult romance is about this man who goes on The Bachelor, but instead of falling for any of the contestants, he ends up hitting it off with one of the show's producers. And I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. Here's the thing. It started off fine. Not great by any means. Even early on, I could tell that there were plenty of problems with it, but I was still like, you know what? It's romance. Like, it's not exactly known for being the great literary genre of all time, but like, you know what? It's romance. It's fun. Like, we're just gonna go with the vibes. Like, I'm having fun so far. And then we kept going and going and going, and then eventually the main conflict kicked in, and I was like, this is the stupidest damn thing ever. Okay, so the main conflict of this book is basically the producer really buying into that The Bachelor is real and being like, oh my God, is the guy that I'm falling for going to choose me? Or is he going to choose one of the contestants and live happily ever after with one of the contestants after this? Oh my God. And it's like, bitch, you work on the show. You know that this is all fucking fake. I'm so sorry. Literally, I read this like a year ago at this point, and it still pisses me off. Oh my God, because the conflict is just so fucking stupid with this book. Oh my God. I don't understand the hype for this. I go on Reddit and people like recommend this book, and I'm just like, why? Why are we recommending this shit? Stop it! Stop it! Also, points taken off for the poor mental health representation, and also Indian American readers say that the Indian American representation is also poorly done. Obviously, I can't speak to that, but like, that's what I've heard. So, yeah, points taken off for all that also. Next is The Scorch Trials by James Dashner. This YA dystopia is the second book in the Maze Runner series. I read the first book last year for a video. You can go watch that. The series is basically about this Mary Sue boy, Thomas, and his alleged friends being put through various experiments by a group of scientists trying to develop a cure for a deadly virus that has taken over the world. And I am giving this one a 2.9 out of 5 stars. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. You will be seeing more Maze Runner books on this list. You will, because the series has basically become my go-to for when I just want like to turn on an audiobook that is very much like turn off your brain and just kind of go with the flow, kind of popcorn vibes. Like the Maze Runner series is my go-to series for that now. But focusing on this one specifically, oh my God. I swear to God, everything that happened in this book was literally just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. Like, girl, every location, every plot point, every new bit of world building, every twist, every character decision made, it all was just like, what the hell, sure. Like, let's do this now. Like, why not? We ain't got nothing else to lose. Why not? Let's just do this now. Also, I believe I made a TikTok about this when I was reading this book, but oh my God. I need men who clearly do not like romance, don't really have an interest in the romance genre, have never even read the romance genre, most likely. I need men who are not romance fans to stop writing romance subplots in their books. Just every single man, every single male identifying person anywhere near the male spectrum of the gender spectrum, whatever. Anyone who somewhat identifies as a man. If you do not like romance, if you do not have an interest in romance, if you are not a romance fan, if you do not like the genre, stop writing romance in your books. Stop writing romance in your movies, in your TV shows, in whatever. Stop writing romance because you cannot do it correctly. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You can't. I'm so sorry, babes. But like, if you are literally a fantasy, a sci-fi, whatever kind of writer, and you are male, and you are thinking, I kind of want to give my main character a love interest, please, for the love of God, pick up one romance book first. Please, I am begging you, please. Oh my God. Anyway, so also, I do have a whole rant on how Teresa is written in this book, but we're already getting kind of ranty, so I will spare you from having to hear all that. But like, yeah, anyway. Anyway, moving on. What If It's Us by Becky Abertally and Adam Silvera. This YA romance question mark is about these two strangers who keep running into each other by chance and decide to take it as a sign that the universe is trying to play matchmaker and start going out. And I DNF'd this one. I DNF'd this one for the same reason that I DNF'd Lunar Love, aka quirky main character, overly quirky main character that I just didn't want to deal with. Next is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This adult mystery is about a woman who is moving into her brother's apartment. On the move-in day, however, she can't find him or get into any form of contact with him, and the neighbors in the building are acting really, really sketchy about his disappearance. With the authorities dismissing her worries, however, the MC decides to investigate and figure out what the heck happened to her brother and how his weird neighbors might be involved, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Oh my god, I had an absolute blast with this one. The entire vibe of this book is just eerie. It's like eerie and elegant at the same time, which makes sense because, it is a rich apartment building. Anyway, but like, oh my god, I really did love everything about it, from like the setting to the tone to the characters. Everything was just so freaking cool, y'all. It really, really was. I had a blast with this one. And I will say, this did that trope of like POV characters withholding information from the reader intentionally until a later time. I usually hate that trope, but this one did it very well, actually, because normally with that kind of trope, I'm always like, okay, why did you withhold this very crucial piece of evidence until now? Because you literally could have just told me, the reader, this like 300 pages ago, and we could have avoided like a whole bunch of conflict. Like, you really didn't need to withhold that. But however, in this one specific case, I will say that it really felt like, okay, I understand why you withheld that thing from me until now, because it really wasn't relevant to you or the plot until right now for some reason. So, okay, you know what? I get it. So, like, I was really good with that. I will say the twist will not work for everybody, but it did work for me, so oh well. Next is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This classic is about these two men, George and Lenny. Lenny has severe developmental problems, and George is his reluctant caretaker. I thought they were brothers. I don't think they're brothers. I don't know. They're farm workers saving up to one day own their own ranch. There's this woman at the farm who takes an interest in Lenny, and bad things ensue. I DNF this one. Here's the thing. If you watched my last video, you will know that one of my reading goals for 2025 was to read more classics in the new year. So I saw this one and knew of it and was like, oh, why not? Let's give that one a chance. Oh my god, please, just, no. No, just no. Oh my god. Girl, I knew that it was going to be problematic. I was not prepared for how hateful. I knew that there were going to be problematic elements just because, like, yeah, but like I wasn't prepared for just how over the top problematic it is. Just, girl, no, no, like I'm not torturing myself to finish this. Anyway, bye. Alrighty, next is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, I got the urge last year to do a reread of the series, and I like to keep my promises and like to see things through to completion, so I was like, like, why not? I already own the series, so from like years ago, like before I even knew anything that Rowling was hateful about. So, Miss Queen of the Transphobes is not getting a dime off of my reread from this. So, just putting that out there, like, she's not making any money from my reread. Because I already own the series. I could read the series 100 times if I wanted to, and she's not making another dime off me or my reading of the series. So I'm just saying that. I'm just putting that out there. Anyway, I'm not gonna describe in detail what these are because I feel like most people know what they are. But alleged mass murder is on the loose, and he has his sights set on Harry. Rowling cannot keep her bigotry out of the work itself, from like racism and especially fat phobia. Like, oh my god, in every single fucking book, there is glorious amounts of fat phobia in these books. So yeah, there's that. Also, I will say, in relation to this one in particular, the whole thing that she went on a rant about werewolves are meant to be a metaphor for AIDS, like, girl. Anyway, yeah, that pisses me off because, like, yeah, Lupin's a good guy, but him and everybody else throughout the series is like, oh my God, werewolves as a whole, they're evil, they're dangerous, they're a danger to society, they prey on children and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, the werewolves who are known to prey on children are meant to be a stand-in for AIDS. And mind you that this series was written not long after the AIDS epidemic. Interesting. Interesting. Huh. Interesting. I wonder what her thoughts on queer people as a whole are, not just trans people, but in general. Huh. Interesting. Anyway, thoughts on this book itself. I feel like there are times in almost all of the books in this series where the main plot gets forgotten for a while in favor of just like immersing the reader in like everyday school life, which I feel like is one of the main reasons why a lot of fans of this series can really, really imagine themselves in like their dream Hogwarts life or whatever. Like I really do think the highly immersive writing style contributes to that. But I will say in this one it got to a very annoying level where it was just like, okay, it feels like to a certain extent like the main plot just got pushed off until like the last few chapters, and the book was like, oh crap, we've been dealing with school drama this entire time and school year's almost over. Oh crap, we're at the last like 25% of the book. We gotta wrap it, we gotta hurry along with this plot and wrap it all up quickly. We gotta get things back on track. And it's like, my God, girl, like, I don't know. I don't know. It just really, really felt like with this one that like it was kind of like, okay, can we get on with the plot? Like, can we please get on with the plot? Like, I get it. We're at school. We're doing school stuff. Like, we got time for that. Like, we can't. Come on, get with the plot. Moving right along into February, we have Star Wars: The Perfect Weapon by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a novella set shortly before The Force Awakens, centered on a background character from that movie, and is basically a fun bounty hunter heist story. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The audiobook is perfectly fine. It's like, I don't know, like 2 hours or so. Like, it's perfectly fine. It's a perfectly fine way to spend 2 hours, and nothing more, nothing less. Next is Star Wars: Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Set a few years before The Phantom Menace, this centers on Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi having a rough master-apprentice relationship, but a big growing threat sends them on an adventure that will strengthen their bond and resolve their issues. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. The parts about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's relationship, like, to each other as, like, master and apprentice, that part was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed those parts, especially the whole thing about, like, Qui-Gon being offered a place on the council and how that would affect his teaching of Obi-Wan and all that kind of stuff. I really did like all that sort of stuff. I will say the rest of it with, like, the planet treaty stuff and the assassination of the young queen and everything, and the traitor stuff and all that, all the other stuff, it was just kind of boring. It was just kind of blah. It was just kind of like, I don't really care. I don't really care about this other plot. I don't really care about these side characters. I just don't really care. Like, eh. So, 3 out of 5 stars. Next is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is an adult literary classic that follows this man who has a friend that's stalker level obsessed with his ex-girlfriend. My God. 1 out of 5 stars. 1 out of 5 stars. I feel bad for every single person who had to read this in high school. Thank God I didn't, which is why I read this now, because I was like, oh, I'm curious. But like, thank God I didn't have to read this in high school. But like, every single person who did, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers to y'all. You're braver than the Marines for getting through this. Like, oh my God. Like, I just could not. I could not. Like, nothing happens for like 80% of this damn book. And then suddenly, it was like the writer was like, oh, right, I actually have to have a plot. So, like, the last 20% was like, oh shit, we got to speed run to the ending now. And it's like, girl, just stop. Just stop. Also, I hate every fucking man in this book. Every single man in this book, I want them all to die. Thankfully, some of them do. But like every single man in this book, ugh, oh my God. I just can't stand them. Just like in general, I don't care for the writing, I don't care for the plot, and I don't care about the commentary. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Oh my god, it's a commentary on the Great American Dream. I don't give a fuck. It's boring as shit. Moving on. Next is The Death Cure by James Dashner. This is the third and final book of the original Maze Runner trilogy, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Here's the thing. I had the most fun with it just because, like, I don't know why, I just found it, like, more fun than the other ones, but, like, the one thing that really, really baffled me with this one was the whole thing about Thomas's memories, like, never really paying off. Because here's the thing, the whole time throughout the rest of the series, the author was like, "Oh my God, Thomas and his memories. He needs to get his memories. He needs to remember. He needs to have like little flashbacks and dreams to his past life. He needs to have his memories. Everybody needs to get their memories back." Blah 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 blah. And then like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't get his memories back, and it never pays off. It never comes to anything. It's just like I've never once until now seen an author hype up, tease, foreshadow, whatever you want to call it, something so specific. Just like one element of the plot, so specifically, hype it up for multiple books, the entire fucking series, and then just never have it pay off at all. It's just like, we didn't even attempt? Really? Okay, that's a choice. That's a choice. I want to know why the editor let him get away with that. I really, really do. Because if I was the editor, I'd been like, okay, bitch, I don't fucking care if you want to drop this at all. You've teased it so much. You at least need to come up with something. I don't care if you half-ass it at this point. We're gonna make money off of this shit anyway. You need to at least wrap up the little memory shit somehow. I don't know. Like, you can't just drop it off for no fucking reason. Next is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This YA literary fiction is told through poetic verse and follows a girl struggling to find her voice in a household that wants to silence her. Feeling like an outsider in her hyper-religious community, she begins expressing her thoughts and feelings about herself, family, and life through poetry. She joins her school's poetry club and finds a space to fully express herself for the first time ever, but has to keep it a secret because she knows there will be hell to pay if her parents find out about her writing. And I give this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book so much. I really, really do. If we lived in a just world, this would be taught in schools as a modern classic. It really, really would. And I just wish that I really had this at the time when I was younger. Just for reasons. Just for reasons. I won't get into them, but just for reasons. I really do wish that I had this when I was younger. I really, really do. Now, I will say that like every single word in this book felt like it was chosen with care when crafting this book. And I've never really been into poetry. Like it's never really been my thing, but the writing was beautiful here. I love the writing here. It's exquisite. And like this book has soul. It has soul, it's heartfelt, and it just feels so genuinely honest. It really, really does. Just like, uh, yeah, I don't know how to best explain it. Like every single emotion in this book that is ever presented just feels honest and raw and vulnerable and real and truthful in all honesty. I just love this one. I love The Poet X so much. Like it's so freaking good. Next is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This adult romance is about this woman who upended her life and was about to get married, only to get dumped because her fiance wants to get back together with his ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend also dumped her boyfriend, so now he's looking for a roommate to split the cost of living. And RMC needs a place to live, so the two of them decide to move into each other. Dumped club, everything, whatever. And so bonding ensues. And I gave this one a 4.4 out of 5 stars. I'd honestly say that this is like a top 3 Emily Henry book. Yes, it follows the same formula that Emily Henry is known for, like if you know, you know. But like, you know what? I like that about her work. I like that about her work that, it's just kind of familiar and I kind of can go into any of her books knowing what to expect. Like, I like her work. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm an Emily Henry fan. Drag me. Obviously, because it's Emily Henry, you are going to get good writing and good chemistry between the leads. So obviously, I don't have to say that that part was good. But I will say, the part about the like messy family drama aspect, because there's always something about messy family drama. The main chick always has some strange relationship with her parents, or at least one or both, something like you know. But like that whole element in this book was done better than I thought it was done in some of Emily Henry's other books. So I will say that. I will say that. Also, I will say it is funny. It is. It is funny. So like the title is correct. It is a funny story. Next is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. This adult thriller is a retelling of Jane Eyre. This lady starts a relationship with a widower in the neighborhood she walks dogs in and then starts comparing herself to his dead wife. And I DNF'd it. Oh my god. Annoying main character. Beyond annoying main character. It's so bad when you have got me, the broke bitch who grew up in poverty, feeling sorry and feeling bad for the rich gated community bitches. Cause it's like, how are you as a main character so fucking annoying that you have me feeling bad for the rich people that you work for? Please be serious. Anyway, next is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This adult mystery centers on an island getaway wedding where someone is murdered. You follow multiple different people involved the day before the wedding to unravel who the victim and killer is. And I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Oh my god. Y'all, this is like a big game of Clue. It really, really was, because you are just like following the story, like trying to guess, like, okay, who's the killer? Who's the victim? Where did it happen? When did it happen? With what motive? With what weapon? Like, it was just so fun. This was so much fun, y'all. I really, really did love it. I really, really do highly recommend this if you are in the mood for like a fun murder mystery with like a lot of melodrama and scandal. Next is Lady Susan by Jane Austen. This epistolary novel focuses on the drama of local widow Lady Susan and how she is trying to sabotage her daughter from marrying a man so that she can have him for herself. Yes, it's messy. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I live for the mess. I live for the drama of it all. I just know. I know for a fact. Because I can just sense it. I can just sense it that Miss Austen was the neighborhood gossip of her time. And she was so much fun to gossip with. She really, really was. I can just tell, because that is the exact type of energy that this book has through and through, and I loved every single second of it. Oh my god, it's so much fun. Y'all need to hype up Lady Susan a little bit more. Y'all do, because this one's just fun. Next is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This adult romantasy is about this woman who discovers that she has magical powers and is prophesied to unite the clans of her country. And joining her on this journey is a hunky warrior with magic of his own. And I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Here's the thing. This one started off really, really interesting, and then as we went further into the book, my excitement just kind of waned to where by the end I was just like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. It kept me interested enough to want to pick up the second book, and I did pick up the second book. I actually just recently finished it at the time of this recording, so we will get to that later on in the video. Anyway, with this one, I really felt like the writing could have used a little bit of cleanup. Like, it could have used like one or two more passes in editing. It really, really could have just like cleaned up some things. And I really do feel like the side characters were beyond flat, just beyond flat. Like, especially since we're like supposed to care pretty deeply about them, like at least deeply to some extent. We're supposed to be like connected to the side characters. And I'm just like, really? Are we? Because like I don't give a fuck about these people. I do not care. I do not know these people. Like, I don't care. Like, sorry to this man. Anyway, but again, like I said, it did leave me curious enough to know what happened next. So yes, I did read the second book. Moving right along into March, we have Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is an adult romantic sci-fi about these two guys, a prince and a viscount, who are hastily pushed into a political marriage because a treaty between their planets is supposed to be signed soon, and we gotta make sure both sides are appearing happy and making friendship bracelets. The reason the marriage is so hasty is because there was already a political marriage in place between the Viscount and the prince's higher-ranking cousin, but the cousin died in a horrible plane crash in the weeks before the treaty is due to be signed. Now things are looking fishy, and there are rumors that the cousin was murdered because someone does not want the treaty to get signed. So now the two main guys start investigating the truth of the matter, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this and honestly want to read the other books set in this universe at some point. There were some moments where I was like a little bit confused about what was going on, won't lie, but like it's sci-fi, so that's kind of to be expected, you know? I really like the way that this author handled PTSD and trauma healing and stuff like that. And also I found the slow way that the main characters came together, like slowly, 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 to be done very well in a very tender and satisfying way. Now, this book doesn't have a trigger warning, so I will provide it because I do think that this book needs some trigger warnings. So, triggers for domestic abuse, physical, verbal, and sexual in a past relationship, briefly depicted on page via flashback. Just putting that out there. Next is Bored to Death by C.J. Connor. This adult cozy mystery is about this man who runs a board game shop and is approached by a guy trying to sell a rare board game. The main character turns him down, but later that night the guy ends up dead on the shop's front steps. So now the main character is trying to figure out who the killer is because right now he's low-key the main suspect. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It's perfectly okay, and that's pretty much what I expect out of the cozy genre. Cozy as a genre doesn't really spark immense joy in me like it does for some other people, but as long as I can just go into like a state of like blissful relaxation, the cozy books have done their job in my opinion. Next is For Found Dead by Natalie D. Richards. This YA thriller is about a group of teens working the last shift at a movie theater before it and the mall it's attached to shut down forever. Someone gets murdered, the doors are locked, and they can't find their phones, so they decide to bite the bullet and hide out in the abandoned mall while a killer is after them. And I gave this one a 3.7 out of 5 stars. This is very much baby's first thriller, and I mean that in a positive way. It's simple, it's very straightforward slash not twisty, it has enough going on to hold a reader's attention, and it has a minimal violence. For people like me who are a little more well-read in the thriller slash mystery genre, it's not going to be an instant favorite by any means, but for someone, like especially a teenager, who is like very new to thrillers and is just like, I don't really know what I like, I don't really know if I like this genre, like I kind of just want to like dip my toe into the water and see what's what. I feel like this is honestly a perfect introduction to the thriller genre for a person like that. So, yeah. Next is 1984 by George Orwell. This adult classic dystopia is a commentary piece on authoritarianism and what happens if the government is allowed too much power to encroach on people's freedom with no pushback. The plot is about a guy who works for the government talking about the world around him, eventually getting into a relationship with a lady and counting his days until the government inevitably makes him disappear for not being blindly obedient. And I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now, I'm of two minds about this. On a personal enjoyment level, I didn't really like this, just because, like, the lesson that it's trying to teach, I already knew going into it, so I didn't get any, like, new revelations or thoughts or anything, because I already knew what this book was trying to say. And on a story level, I just found it really, really boring. I didn't like the characters. I found them very dull. I didn't like how this was basically just page upon page upon page upon page upon page of just world building, world building, world building. And yeah, I just kind of found the main guy to be dull and annoying. So, Now, having said that, I do see why a lot of people get something out of this. It really does paint a very clear, very direct, humanized image of the dangers of authoritarianism and why you shouldn't just blindly support the government. So on that level, I really do understand why this gets hyped and understand why a lot of people do think that this is really good and really help them, inspire new ideas and revelations and whatever. And I do think it is something that people in today's age, really in any age, but especially in today's age, especially if you are someone who lives in a Western country, particularly the United States right now, I do think it is something that everybody should read at least once. Even if you're like me and don't really get much out of it, I really do think everybody should read it at least once, or at least attempt to read it at least once. Although, with that said, I will say that you can very clearly tell within the text itself, and this does line up with the author's personal real life views, that the author really just only cares about how the government um, goes after and attacks and limits people's freedoms of the people who look like him, like white, cisgender, middle class, straight, stuff like that, able-bodied, and doesn't really care about how the government goes after other people, like any minority groups whatsoever. You can really, really tell that in the text itself, and yes, that does line up with his IRL views. Next is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This new adult fantasy is the second book in the King of Scars duology and seventh book in the Grishaverse saga. I don't think there's a way to describe this without spoilers, so I'll just say that we're heading into a world war and everything is going to crap. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it by the time I got to the ending, but it was a slog to get through. It really, really was. I felt like there was just like a little too much going on here with like several different plot threads, changing the magic system a little bit, having everyone from the previous seven novels make some sort of cameo appearance, and just the kind of clunky big twist at the end with everything. Yeah, that was kind of clunky. Although I don't hate it as much as some people do, so yeah. But and also just trying to wrap up everything in this entire universe while also leaving the door cracked a little bit open for future installments, aka another Six of Crows novel. So yeah, it was just kinda a little bit all over the place. Like I felt like this was trying to lean more towards epic fantasy, which is kind of what lost me because I really don't go for epic fantasy, and even if I did, I felt like it was kind of done very messily here. But yeah, I did enjoy the characters and their progression, and I will definitely keep reading whatever comes from this universe next. Next is Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf by C.L. Clarke. This fantasy is a tie-in novel for the TV show Arcane and is set 15 years before the series. It centers on the war general Ambessa Medarda going into literal battle against some of her relatives and fighting to claim the role as head of the family after her grandfather dies and leaves that spot open. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I have to say, if you love Mbessa from the show, you are going to love this book because it is very much her voice. It is very her. And if you are someone who hates Mbessa, even if you love Arcane, which, a side note, I do have to say, it really should have been 3 seasons because season 2 is an absolute fucking mess. Ugh, my God, that's just, they rushed season 2. It really should have been just 3 seasons, in my opinion. Anyway, even if you love Arcane, if you did not like Mbessa whatsoever, if you absolutely fucking hated her, you will hate this book. Because again, like I said, it is very her. It is very her voice. And listen, I tuned in because I do love Mbessa. She is one of my favorite characters from the show. So yes, I did enjoy this book. Now, someone on Goodreads did point out that much of this book does follow a pattern of go here, fight these guys, go here, fight these guys, go here, fight these guys, which once you notice it, it is kind of hard to unnotice it. But like, I was always interested in where we were going and what was happening, so it didn't really bother me that it was kind of a repetitive narrative pattern. I will say, on the topic of Rel, I really do like how Rel was handled here. I liked her arc, I really liked her personality, and I also really liked that the writer managed to give her an expansion of her story while also keeping the major beats of her character arc in line with her original League of Legends lore. And I was also pleasantly surprised by the inclusion of some Mel POV chapters. I love Mel. She is one of my favorite characters from the show too, and also one of my favorite champs in the game, honestly. So I really was pleasantly surprised about the Mel chapters, although I would have liked a few more towards the ending because there were just some things that happened during the climax that would have hit a little bit more emotionally hard if there were a few more Mel chapters leading up to that moment. So yeah, I won't say anything more about that. And one other thing that I really did like is I loved how the audiobook is narrated by M. Bess's original voice actor from the show. So it was really, really cool. I loved it so much. Even though you can definitely tell that she is not trained for audiobook narration, but I loved it anyway. Next is The Roommate Risk by Talia Hibbert. This adult romance is about this woman whose apartment gets flooded, so she moves in with her best friend while repairs are made. The best friend in question has always had some feelings for the main lady, but he's never wanted to ruin their friendship over it. Now, living together, though, that mutual attraction starts becoming an elephant in the room, and I gave this one a 2.1 out of 5 stars. Now, this is honestly why I believe that there should be clear rules when it comes to romance covers. I really do firmly believe that like rom-com romances should be the ones that only get like the cute, like cartoony covers for romance novels, and more spicier novels should get the like realistic half nude people on the cover because this one I was not expecting it to be as spicy as it was because I saw the cover and I was like, "Oh, it's cartoons. Like it's going to be cute. It's going to be a rom-com." Like, no. They're going at it like every other chapter and it's just like, "Okay. Okay." Like it's not bad. The smut is not badly written by any means. It's really, really not. It's not bad smut. But like I just wasn't really in the mood for how much there was. And when yeah, I just wasn't in the mood for how much there was, so that really did affect my enjoyment of this novel. So yeah. I will also say that this novel very much has like AO3 roommate AU energy to it. And I don't mean that as a drag by any means. I love fanfic. So I just mean that like if you love to go on like AO3 and love to read fanfics about like roommate alternate universes, you will probably really, really like this because this has that exact type of energy to it. So yeah. Moving right along into April, we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This adult fiction is about this author who has a flop career while her sorta, kinda, not really friend is living the dream as a famous bestseller. When the two are hanging out, the bestseller dies in a freak choking accident, leaving behind an unpublished manuscript that no one knows about. The main character sees this as her opportunity into the spotlight and steals the manuscript to publish it as her own, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I had a good time with this one. I like the writing. I mean, of course the writing is good. It's R.F. Kuang for Christ's sake. And the commentary about the publishing industry was very, very interesting. Sorry, words. And I really loved following the messy main character. I mean, I hated her. I was rooting for her downfall at every turn. And whenever she would run into to some stumbling blocks, I was just like, "Yay! You're evil. You deserve to flop." But like, I really did love following her because she's just so comically evil that it's kind of like it's just kind of fun to follow her along. She's just so. Anyway, although I will say one thing that I will say is I don't think that this novel will necessarily age the best just because a lot of it is very much about like reactions on book social media, especially it captures that like late 2010s, early 2020 snapshot of like what bookish Twitter was like. So if you're someone who lived through that era, you'll be like kind of nostalgic, kind of like I was. But if you're someone who was not there for like book social media during that time, I don't think that this will age the best for those types of readers. I really, really don't. Next is Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. This contemporary classic centers on this girl who was sent to live with her aunt and uncle when she was a kid and has always been treated as an outsider in her family because of that. A series of events play out throughout the novel, but one of the biggest plot lines is Fanny, the main character, being courted by this dude she can't stand, but everyone in her family is pressuring her to marry, and her resilience to choose her peace regardless of the harsh treatment she receives by not being bullied into a life she doesn't want. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I'm not going to lie, the first half of this novel was kind of a slog to get through, but the second half was very, very interesting, especially everything that happens after Fanny goes into the countryside with like the drama with all of her other relatives and people. Like that whole thing, you just have to read it. It was very, very interesting. I was like here for all of the drama. Now, a lot of people have a lot of issues with this one, and the reasons are 100% valid, but I have to honestly say that most of the issues that people have with this one didn't really bother me personally. Like, Fanny being overly meek and mild didn't bother me. I mean, I find that completely understandable given her upbringing. Fanny being a religious stick in the mud, especially during, like, the whole Christmas play saga, I personally found that very much understandable. Not because like I agreed with her like or anything, like I did find her to be a religious stick in the mud also, but just because like historical context, like we have to remember what the culture was like when this book was written. Like, come on now. And then also three, the incest. Yes, the incest. The ending. My God. Ugh. It didn't shock me the way that it did some people, just because like I immediately called it from like chapter one. I really, really did. So I had the entire novel to be like, oh my God, I'm mentally preparing. I'm mentally preparing for when she shacks up with her cousin. I am mentally preparing for that. Like, so when it eventually happened, I was just like, ugh, finally, my God, like we can finally get that over with. Ugh, anyway. But like, did I like the incest stuff? Absolutely not. Like, fuck no. It's the weirdest choice made in any of of the Austen novels, in all honesty. But yeah, anyway. But aside from that, overall, I kind of think this is one of my favorite Austen novels, in all honesty. Like, it's in the top three, at least. I don't know. It's one of my favorites, even though it's not really her most popular one. Next is The Overwood by Gabriel S. Prendergast. This middle grade fantasy is the third book in the Fairywood series. It follows this boy whose mother gets kidnapped by an evil former Fae Queen, and he needs to go on a quest to find and rescue her. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, taking this book without any additional context, I found it reminiscent of like we're going on a journey around the world type of fanfics that I used to write at age 12. And yes, I do mean that in plot, character depth, and writing quality. So, without knowing anything about this book's creation, I was honestly giving it like a 2 out of 5 stars. However, I later found out that this book is part of a collection intended to give students that are either behind in reading skills or beginning to learn English as another language something very simple and easy to read to help develop their skills. So, with that context in mind, I honestly think that this book does its job wonderfully and it accomplishes its purpose with flying colors. So, in that regard, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. So to meet in the middle and balance things out, I'm giving it an overall 3 out of 5 stars. So yeah. Next is The Broposal by Sonora Reyes. This adult romance focuses on these two guys who have been besties forever and everyone that they know sees them as soulmates. Except they don't see each other that way. Well, at least not yet. One of the guys is an undocumented immigrant trying to get US citizenship, and so the other guy proposes the idea of getting legally married in order for the immigrant guy to get his green card. And while the marriage starts out fake, is it really going to stay that way in a romance, you know? And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, this was very nice. I enjoy Friends to Lovers very, very much, especially childhood Friends to Lovers. I find it so cute. So the chemistry between the leads, I was living for. I really, really was. The plot for this felt really, really unique, especially for the romance genre. Although, and this is not the book's fault, I will just say that I honestly could not stop thinking the entire time that I was reading this about the real world dangers that these two would be in if this took place in real life, because even though ICE is always evil under any administration, they are, as we know, especially evil terrorists right now. So, yeah. So I really couldn't stop thinking about that. Like, oh, thank God this is fictional. Like, because this would not have a happy ending probably if this was real life. But that's not the book's fault. That's just a matter of the unfortunate world that we live in. And yeah, don't even get me started. Anyway. Uh, but anyway, this has plenty of silly rom-com fun, hijinks, and internal melodrama, which I am here for. And also, this honestly has my most hated villain of any book that I have ever read, which is really saying something because, girl, I read fantasy, which is known for like evil dictator, genocidal war criminals as main villains. So the fact that a romance has my most hated villain of all time for a novel is interesting. It really, really is interesting. Next is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This YA romantasy is about this girl and guy who are rival news reporters during times of war between the gods. Through a series of events, they discover that their personal typewriters are magically linked, so they become pen pals and their relationship begins growing into something very charming and sweet. And I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This was gorgeous. Ah, the drama, the heart, the world, the story, the writing. Oh, I love it all. I love every single aspect of this book. Now, I have to say, normally I hate books about writers because they always feel like sad ego pieces, honestly, especially when like side characters start talking to the main character like, "Oh my God, you're such a good writer." Like, it's like, girl, we know that's the author talking to themselves. Like, girl, we all know it. But however, I will allow it in this case. I will allow it in this case because Rebecca Ross actually has the skills to back it up. Rebecca Ross does actually have the skills to have her side characters gas herself up. She really, really does. So good for her. Next is Crank Palace by James Dashner. This Maze Runner novella is set during the events of the third book and focuses on what one of the supporting characters was doing when he was off page for a while. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, please tell me why this was actually much more compelling than any of the mainline books. Like, okay then, I was not expecting that, but here we are. Writing quality was better, although not free of problematicness because it is James Dashner overall. Jeez Christ. Anyway, I was legitimately like decently invested in the plot, and following Newt as a main character was much more interesting than following Mr. Mary Sue Thomas over there. Like Newt just has a much more interesting narrative voice in all honesty. Like I really did like following him. So, yeah. Next is The Long Weekend by Gilly McMillan. This adult thriller is about these women who go on a girls' trip to a cabin in the woods where they find a threatening note saying that one of their husbands will be killed by the end of the weekend. And I DNF'd it. Now, maybe this is just an audiobook thing, but I literally could not follow what the fuck was going on because it's written in a way where there aren't really chapters and there aren't really dedicated POV switches. It just goes from like Saturday, we're following one person. Oh, we're following another person. We're following another person. We're following another person. Da 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 da. And the narrator doesn't change for any of the POV voices, nor are there really any noticeable breaks for any of the POV voices. So it was just really, really confusing for me listening on audio to keep up with like, okay, who is who? What is where? What are we doing at any given moment? So I was just like, nope, nope, no, I'm not dealing with this. Nope, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. So yeah, maybe that's just an audiobook thing, but I was reading it on audiobook, so I DNF'd it for that reason. Maybe if you're reading it physically or on your Kindle or whatever and can actually like see like, oh, the breaks between the POVs, maybe this works a lot better in that case, but I don't know. Next is Star Wars The High Republic Quest for the Hidden City by George Mann. This middle grade sci fi follows a Padawan who is sent alongside her master to investigate and rescue a Jedi after a distress call is received on a planet filled with terrifying beasts. And I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. This was fun, I had a blast with it, but there were plenty of times where I was just like completely lost as to what the heck was going on, which is kind of embarrassing to say considering it is middle grade, but oh well, what are you gonna do? That's the truth. So just for that reason, I really can't rate it higher than a 3. So, oh yeah. Next is Star Wars The High Republic Quest for Planet X by Tessa Gratton. This middle grade sci fi is a follow up to Hidden City. This one follows the Padawan girl joining an adventure with her friends to find a mysterious world of myth and legend known only as Planet X. And I also gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I had fun with this. It was cute. I liked the characters. I liked the plot. I liked how it circled around to like tying back into the main storyline at the end. So yeah, it was just an overall fun time. Moving right along into May, we have Star Wars The High Republic Race to Crash Point Tower by Daniel Jose Older. This middle grade sci fi takes place during a Republic cultural fair. A Padawan boy catches an incoming warning signal that a pirate organization known as the Nihil is planning a terrorist attack on the fair and rushes to the nearest communications tower to alert the Jedi before it's too late. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5. Much like the previous two, it's cute, it's fun, it's short. Plus, also, the audiobook narrator is absolutely perfect for this one. Next is The Loop by Ben Oliver. This YA dystopia is about this boy who lives in this high isolation max security prison where everyone sent there has been sentenced to death but can delay their execution day by undergoing medical experimentation to test new biological products being made for the rich. There's a lot of political restlessness in the world, so soon the monotonous day-to-day routine at the prison gets upended and life goes to hell. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This is honestly how you modernize the YA dystopia genre for the current decade. It really, really is. Everything about this is pretty darn interesting. The environment, the mysterious energy, the main character, the plot. The plot does go off the rails a little bit towards the end, but like other than that, it's pretty darn good. And also, I really think that the commentary about society's unfortunate growing reliance on AI is much more relevant today than it was back when this was originally published back in 2020, and I am curious to see where the series goes from here. Next is The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. This adult mystery revolves around the grand opening of this luxury woodsy vacation spa. The owner of this place has pissed a lot of people off over the years, from loved ones to local villagers, and those past sins might finally be catching up to her. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, it's definitely my least favorite Lucy Foley novel that I've read, although I still gave it 4 stars, so I still liked it, just because the ending is too clean. It's too tidy. Everything gets wrapped up with a bow, neat and tidy. And it's like, you know. But overall, I did enjoy the atmosphere. I enjoyed the characters, and I enjoyed the like culty folklore vibe that this one has going for it. Next is Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. This YA urban fantasy is the third book in the Legendborn Cycle series. The first book centers on this girl who finds a secret society of demon hunters at her school and seeks to infiltrate their ranks after discovering that they might have had something to do with the death of her mother. And much like I gave the last two books last year, well, in 2024 actually, I'm giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. I freaking love this series so much. I love Bree, I love her journey and where it is going. I love the plot. I love the lore and world building. I love the characters in this one. It's just I love the love entanglement stuff too. I love everything about this series. I love the themes. I love the writing. I can just keep going on and on and on. Anyway, this book specifically, I love the new characters, including the twins. I know a lot of people don't like the twin characters, but I personally do. I really like the plot in this one, and I really like the lore expansions that this one has, and the twist. The big twist at the end, that has me interested to see how things are going to be shaken up in the next book. And also, I love the reconnecting that Nick and Bree had in this one after, like, everything went down in the last couple books. So, yes. I will say, a lot of people think that this book was completely unnecessary. I 100% disagree with that on all fronts. The last book, Bloodmarked, brought Bree down to her lowest in every single possible way that you can imagine. She needed this time and this much space. It's a big ass book, mind you. She needed that time to fully not just rebuild herself to where she was previously, but to make herself even stronger and grow beyond what she originally was, to finally be able to take on and face the challenges that are still ahead of her in this journey going forward. So, yes, I fully support this book. I freaking love this book so much. Next is A Deadly Inside Scoop by Abby Collette. This cozy mystery is about this woman who inherits and reopens the family ice cream shop right as a snowstorm blows into town, unfortunately for her. While she's busy trying to figure out how the heck to get people to buy ice cream in winter, someone gets murdered near her shop. Her best friend convinces her to get involved and try to catch the killer before the authorities start thinking that maybe she committed the murder. And I gave it a 1.4 out of 5 stars. Now, when the book focuses on just her trying to run the family ice cream shop and get it up and running and all that sort of stuff, It's boring but charming. Like, I was kinda interested in just hearing her go about, like, "Oh, maybe I could, like, introduce some new flavors for, like, the special menu. Maybe I could upgrade our social media accounts, da da da." Like, I kinda was interested in that, even though it kinda just was kinda boring. But, like, when it focuses on the murder mystery stuff, that's when this book loses me. And, like, it's a cozy murder mystery, so, like, the murder mystery aspect is kind of the more important thing. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It becomes extremely, extremely irritated because A, the dialogue in general is just very, very stilted. But when characters are talking about like the murder mystery stuff and trying to be like solving and whatever, they have the memory of a goldfish. They have the memory of Dory the fish, honestly. I know she's not a goldfish, but anyway. Like literally it'll be like person A goes like, "Oh, did you investigate that lead that we talked about yesterday?" And person B goes, "What lead? What did you tell me to do?" And person A goes like, "That lead that we talked about yesterday. I told you to go do XYZ. Did you do it?" And it's like, da-da-da, and it's like it's always like that. It's not just like one or two conversations with a dumb character or a forgetful character or like that. It's every single goddamn conversation in this book about the murder mystery stuff. And it's just like, stop! Y'all are terrible at solving this damn murder mystery. Like, stop it. Just focus on the ice cream shop. Literally, the mystery is not even solved about who the killer is until the epilogue. And it's not even solved by the characters. It's literally just info dumped onto us at the very end. Like, hello? Like, do we see the problem? Do we see the problem? So yeah, I didn't enjoy this one, and I will not be continuing on with the series. Next is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This YA contemporary classic is about this girl whose naivete and love of books lets her see the world differently than most people. It's her first time out in high society, so she's making friends and all that kind of stuff, and ends up getting invited by one of her new friends to stay for a while at this mansion filled with mystery, where she starts imagining conspiracy theories about how her friend's dad makes his money. And I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, after learning that this was actually Miss Austen's first ever novel that she wrote, it wasn't the first one ever published, but it was the first one that she wrote. That actually makes a lot of sense because it has a much more vibrant, youthful writing style compared to her other novels. So it was definitely an interesting change of pace in reading the Austen novels. I don't think everything worked. Like, I did find the main character to be kind of dull, honestly, but overall, I did have a good time with this one. Next is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This adult literary romance is about this journalist who finds out about a job to write a reclusive celebrity's memoir and jumps at the chance because she has always been a fan and wants to know the story of what made the star suddenly drop off the earth several decades ago. Upon arriving, she finds out another journalist is also in the running to write the memoir. The celebrity lady tells them she'll give them each pieces of her life story, and whoever can come up with a better draft for the book will get the job. And I gave this one a 3.6 out of 5 stars. It was enjoyable, but something felt off. Like, it felt like Miss Henry was trying to step out of her comfort zone a little bit, and either she was scared to, or her editor was like, girl, you're known for romance. Okay, you can do this little celebrity memoir investigation mystery shit, but like you're known for romance, so include some fucking romance in it. Like we need the money. I don't know. Something happened. Something happened because it just honestly felt like the romance was getting in the way of everything. Like honestly, I did prefer the romance aspect over the like literary celebrity memoir mystery stuff going on, but I did feel like the main purpose of this book was supposed to be more focused on like the celebrity memoir journalistic stuff, and the romance was just kind of getting in the way of that, honestly. Like it was just kind of hogging the spotlight. So yeah, like it was fine, but like I honestly do feel like it could have been more focused in like what it wanted to do in all honesty. So yeah. Next is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This adult thriller is about this woman who gets invited to a writing retreat with a bunch of other writers hosted by her favorite author. When she gets there, the host tells the group that they are to stay at the mansion for a month and write an entire novel, and whoever comes up with the best one wins a seven-figure publishing deal. Unfortunately, weird shit starts happening around the house and one of the ladies disappears suddenly, so the main character is trying to figure out what's going on before she is next on the list. And I DNF this one. I honestly forgot that I even tried to read this book until I was looking through my notes to make this video, so yeah, that's just how forgettable this book was in all honesty. But like, annoying main character and boring plot that took forever to start going. Like, next. Anyway. Next is You Had Me at Happy Hour by Timothy Janowski. This adult romance is about these two guys who work in a restaurant. One's a sommelier trying to save up for schooling to get higher certification and make more money. The other's a former TikTok influencer mixologist who's now down on his luck and needs a real job. They get into a friends with benefits type of situation, but somewhere along the line, real feelings start brewing. And I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's perfectly fine. It's not standout great, it's not standout horrible. Like, everything is just fine, it's a decent way to pass the time. The plot was okay, the drama was okay, the characters are kind of annoying at times, but not unlikable, and honestly, the spice was the best part. Next is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This YA romantasy is the sequel to Divine Rivals, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars also. Ugh, I love this one just as much as the first one, and I do not understand people who are like, "Oh my god, it's not as good." Like, it kind of shit. Like, did we read the same book? Did we read the same book? I'm so sorry. Like, did you get another draft? Like, did you get like a draft zero of this book or something? Because, like, I don't know. The book that I read, aka Ruthless Vows, that this was really fucking good. So I don't know what the people on TikTok who are like, "Oh my god, it's so bad." Like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. Y'all are delusional. Anyway, I love the reversal of the status quo. I love the plot. I love Iris and Roman's love and seeing it blossom and everything. I love this duology so much. I need to get a copy of it for myself someday. Next is the book that everyone was talking about last year, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This YA dystopia is a prequel to The Hunger Games and focuses on how Haymitch won the 50th Games, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Now, I don't care what Reddit says. This was a blast. Like, it took me on an emotional roller coaster with many laughs had and many tears shed. The thrills were thrilling, the excitement was exciting, the drama was dramaing. It's a classic Hunger Games story through and through, and also the commentary about how the media slash government manipulates real events to like use as propaganda is very, very timely. It has been timely for the past couple years, honestly. So, well, probably in all of history, honestly, for being real. And also, something that I really, really respect Suzanne Collins for is that she undoubtedly knows that at this point, the majority of Hunger Games readers who are buying the new books are 20 to 30 years old. Like, she has to know that. But she still keeps this book firmly planted in YA. In its tone, in its writing style, in its characterization, in its voice, in everything. She is like, y'all, I don't care if y'all are grown hags now. This started as a series for teenagers. I am keeping it as a series for teenagers. If y'all don't like it, get the fuck out. I really, really respect Suzanne Collins for that. Moving right along into June, we have Lose You to Find Me by Eric J. Brown. Now, this book says it's a YA romance with a co-workers to lovers trope, but what it actually is a YA coming-of-age story about a guy who gets a second chance with an old crush, only to start wondering if it's okay to let go of past desires slash dreams in order to grow into the person you're meant to be. And I gave it a 3.3 out of 5 stars. This book's biggest problem is honestly just the misleading marketing of it, because you go into it thinking like, oh, it's going to be like a cute, YA romance, waiters are going to fall in love, da, 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 da. And then you go into it with that mindset and you're reading all this shit and it's like, oh, okay, this is really toxic. Like, oh, girl, we got cheating, we got home wrecking, we got melodrama, we got uncommitment, like we got all this shit going on. It's like, oh, okay, everybody's being whiny, everybody's being melodramatic, everything sucks. But then So I at like the halfway mark, I finally recognized that the description lied about what this is, and and I flipped my brain for my expectations. And at that point, I kind of started getting into it and being like, oh, okay. So if looking at this with a different lens and different expectations, I'm kind of getting into it. Like the melodrama is making sense because these characters are slugging through bullshit in order to come out as who they are meant to be and stronger and more aware with like all with like better sense of identity and stuff like that on the other side and what they want out of life. Okay, okay, I'm here for it. It's starting to make more sense. So like, yeah, if it just had better marketing, I feel like this book would not be so lowly rated on Goodreads. So yeah. Next is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This adult literary fiction follows a woman who has always been a good girl and follows a straight and narrow path. Be the dutiful daughter, get the degree her father wants, get into a proper career, etc. On a girl's trip to Vegas, however, she gets drunkenly married to a stranger that leaves without a trace by dawn. This one moment of carefree decision making ignites a spark within her to finally stop blindly following expectations and figure out how she actually wants to live her life. And I DNF'd it. It's not bad, especially the writing. The writing is actually really good. I'm just simply not the right audience for it. This is for like millennials who are having like postgraduate quarter life crisis in all honesty. So, yeah, that's not me. So, I'm just not the right audience for this. But if you are the right audience for it, you might like it. Next is The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas. This YA fantasy is about a boy who is chosen to compete in his country's legendary competition known as the Sunbearer Trials. The point of the trials is for 10 teenagers to compete for the honor of being selected by the sun god to bring newly rejuvenated protective sunstones to all the temples across the lands, while the loser is sacrificed to the sun god to have their body empower said protective sunstones. And I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I freaking love this so much. It is this close to getting 5 out of 5 stars. The only reason that this does not get 5 out of 5 stars is because there were two pivotal moments at the beginning and at the end where I could tell that it was really, really important what was going on. And while I was following along, I couldn't picture the scenes in my head. I couldn't exactly picture what was going on. Like I could understand what was happening, but I couldn't picture it like I could the rest of the novel. So I was like, yeah, like I feel like I feel like for how important these two scenes are, I should really, really be able to like picture them crystal clear in my mind, but I just can't. But anyway, the world is so lush. It's got cool lore, it's got interesting characters, an exciting plot. This is just like good, healthy fun in all honesty. It's kind of got a little bit of a Hunger Games vibe to it with like the whole like kids competing on reality TV to not die thing, but like in a more lighthearted way. And also, I really just love that a fantasy that is very proud about its queer and Mexican roots that is aimed at the younger YA demographic got picked up by a major publisher and saw pretty darn good success because you normally don't see these types of books picked up by major publishers, at least not to a great extent. So the fact that this got on store shelves at all is really, really nice to see. Next is Cleat Cute by Meryl Wilsner. This adult romance is about this veteran professional soccer player and a new recruit to the team who develop a thing for each other in secret. And I DNF this one. This this is gonna sound mean. This made me understand why some people call book talk fast fashion for books. I'm sorry it did. Like, the plot was flat, the characters were flat, the setting was flat, everything was flat. It just felt like the author had the idea of like spicy lesbian soccer player book, and that idea kind of ran out of juice pretty quickly, and she didn't really know what else to do after that. So yeah. Next is A Gentleman's Gentleman by T.J. Alexander. This adult historical romance is about a trans man who lives a reclusive life, but his father's will outlined that he needs to be married by a certain age or else he'll lose his entire estate. Sounds like a simple enough solution, except for the thing about finding a wife who will accept him. Oh, and there's also the other thing about him being gay. And the already challenging task of finding a wife becomes near impossible when his newly hired manservant shows up looking oh so handsome. And I gave this one a 3.6 out of 5 stars. I had a very pleasant time with this one. I really, really did. It's very nice all around, and I especially like the twist, so that was interesting. I will say, though, that this book's main problem is that I just wish it was longer. I really, really do. Like, it's very short. It's a little bit too short, in all honesty. I feel like if it was just a little bit longer, we could have, like, really, really fleshed everything out, in all honesty. So, yeah. But overall, a very nice time. Next is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. This YA fantasy is basically published Draco fanfic, and I DNF'd it. Now, here's the thing with this one. This is not like a lot of other books in like the fanfic to traditionally published pipeline. Like, think of the Love Hypothesis, for example. If someone who didn't know that the Love Hypothesis was a Raylo fanfic just walked into Barnes& and Noble one day and was like, oh, this looks interesting. Okay, cool. And just like decided to read it without knowing anything about it, they would not be able to tell that it started out as a Star Wars fanfic. Why? Because it can stand on its own 2 feet. This one, you literally cannot understand what the fuck is going on unless you have read Harry Potter. Like, it's literally just that. And even at that point, it's still like you have to just imagine Harry Potter to understand what the fuck is going on. And what I mean by that is everything is so fucking vague that like you literally don't know what the fuck is going on. You literally just have to be like, okay, the dark evil villain that like we are alluding to, that's just Voldemort. Okay. This like weird professor that like shows up out of nowhere and like we don't really know what the fuck who the fuck this is, but like we're supposed to care about him. Okay, that's just Dumbledore. Okay, okay, okay. This annoying prat of a main character, that's just Harry. Right. Okay, okay, okay. Like you just literally have to keep doing that for this book to make any fucking sense whatsoever because it does not explain anything about like who these people are, what is going on, what is the world about. Like it doesn't explain any fucking thing. Like oh my god, it cannot stand on its own 2 feet unless you know Harry Potter. Truly, truly, truly. And it was just here's the thing. If I wanted to read Harry Potter, I would just pick up the books that I already own. If I wanted to read Draco fanfic, I would get my ass on AO3. So, like, why does this book exist? Granted, this was published back in, like, early 2010s, I think it was, so, like, the fanfic to traditionally published landscape was a lot different back then, so maybe, like, there's some historical context for this book that I'm missing, but, like, overall, I just don't see the point of this book. Oh my God. And everyone who was recommending this to me online, sleep with one eye open, I'm just saying. Next is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin. This adult romance is perfectly described as Sapphic Bridgerton meets The Parent Trap. So, it's matchmaking season in high society, and our two main characters need to find husbands now. Because one of the ladies is getting up there in age, and the other lady is about to be living in poverty. Only problem? They're both lesbians. Oh, and they are also falling for each other. But they actually can come up with a solution. One of the ladies has a single mom, the other lady has a single dad, so they're like, hey, what if we get our parents to fall in love instead, so that we don't have to find husbands to solve all of our issues? Like, let's just do that instead. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, the comp titles for this one, like I said, are perfect. Like, this is perfect for, like, Sapphic Bridgerton meets The Parent Trap, because it really, now I haven't seen The Parent Trap, I know, shocking, I probably should at some point, but I do love Bridgerton, and this scratched the same itch in my brain that Bridgerton does. It really, really does. It's fun, it's chaotic, it's full of hijinks and everything. It's got nice melodrama. Like, it's just fun, it's camp, I like it, I had a great time with it, and I do want to read the spin-off sequel at some point. Next is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This is book 4. Harry is entered into a magical competition. First of all, you will be hearing me bring up the pro-slavery subplot for each of these books going forward, because it is present in each of these books going forward. Yes, I am referring to everything referring to the house elves. Because first of all, I want to know how the heck, even by 90s slash early 2000s social standards, I want to know how the heck Rowling got away with putting in a subplot in her books that is basically just Hermione being like, "Oh my God, y'all, house elves are slaves. Like they really should be like treated fairly and with some dignity and like basic rights, right? Like we kind of need to address this glaring issue that we're all being served by slaves. And everybody in the fucking book being like, oh my god, this woke blue haired liberal bitch. Shut the fuck up, Hermione. Like, oh my god, the slaves like being slaves. Shut the fuck up. So, um, hmm, yeah, interesting. And also, there is Hagrid's very loudly racist rant about foreigners and everything, and how they are so evil and everything, after getting dumped by his French girlfriend at one point. So, I wonder why they cut that out of the movie. I can't imagine why. Anyway, going back onto a more surface level approach, Goblet of Fire has always honestly been one of my favorite stories in the entire series. Yes, including the movie. I don't know why people rag on the movie. I think the movie's pretty darn good. Anyway, this is meant to be the like transitional book of the series of like, okay, the characters are beginning to enter high school age, we are starting to figure out what we really want to do with the Voldemort stuff that we've been hinting about in the background up until now, like it's time to start transitioning and start setting the wheels into motion for the end game. And I feel like this book accomplishes its goal of being a transition book very, very well because the plot's tone very much balances, the magic school whimsy that the early books are known for with the more Voldemort, darker, plot heavy stuff that the later books are known for. And that transitional period also extends to the characters as well because they still have a lot of their like awkward preteen energy of the early novels, but they are also having a little bit more mature feelings and emotions. For example, like see the whole Winter Ball section. So you can tell that like, hey, they're still kids, but like they're starting to grow up a little bit. Like the series is starting to grow up a little bit. So I do think for a transitional book, it is very well done. Next is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is an adult science fantasy, and I'm going to be honest, y'all, I don't exactly know what's going on here. I think it is about this lady who is serving this necromancer courtier as her bodyguard, and they are entering a competition of ascension that the Emperor is putting on. I DNF'd it, and you can probably already tell that because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I'm going to be honest, I really could not keep up with what was going on. I really wanted to love this book. I kept trying to make myself understand it. Because everybody says that it's so great, it's so good, and I really could like tell that like if I could understand it, I probably really would love it, but like I just couldn't follow along with what was going on. So it's a me issue. It really, really is. But if you can follow along with what the fuck is going on, more power to you, and I'm jealous. Moving right along into July, we have Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This adult contemporary classic is about a black woman on a journey to find herself and her happiness after spending decades in abusive relationships. And I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. This was so enjoyable. From start to finish, I was rooting for Janie and her journey. And I have to say, honestly, this one was just like listening to somebody's grandma like tell her life story. It was really, really an enjoyable, pleasant reading experience in that way. And I really like the writing. I really, really do. I found the writing to be really, really good. I especially really like the way that like the author would like set a scene and like create a very like lived in environment through the use of like how she used the background characters and everything. So yeah, I'm this is just so good, y'all. Next is Such Charming Liars by Karen M. McManus. This YA mystery centers on this girl and boy who were once step siblings and end up running into each other at this billionaire's birthday party several years after their parents split. The girl has a mother who works as a jewel thief, and they're planning to break into the birthday party to steal a necklace and worth millions of dollars. The boy, on the other hand, has a father who is trying to marry into the rich family for money. Things go to shit at the party, one of the rich uncles is murdered, and now the entire weekend is thrown into chaos as the two former siblings and their new friend from the rich family work together to figure out how to get out of this safely. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This was fun. Is it the best, most masterfully plotted book ever? No, not by any means. But I had a great time with it, and that's all that matters. I really like the characters. I really like the thrills. I was here for the vibes. I was here for the little bit of romance, and I was here for the family drama. Like, it was really just really fun from start to finish. I do have to say, though, the climax did leave me a little bit, like, feeling, because, like, some things happened during the climax where it was like, okay, the characters involved here, we kind of didn't build them up properly. Like, they didn't have enough screen time or whatever for me to like get emotionally attached to the core ones involved in the climax. So it was kind of just like it didn't hit as emotionally hard as it could have. But anyway, but overall, I had a nice time with it. Next is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. This adult mystery focuses on a group of old college friends and their spouses who all go on a trip to the snowy countryside together to celebrate New Year's. Tension is very high within the group, and eventually someone is murdered. You follow different members of the group in the lead up to the killing to unravel who did what to who. And I gave it a 4.4 out of 5 stars. Now, this is the author's first mystery book, and you can definitely tell because it's not the best plotted mystery. I will say that. I kind of was able to call pretty much everything. So, yeah. But, like, did I have a good time with it? Oh, yes. Yes, I did. I very much did. Now, I do have to say that I love the mess. I love the tension. I love the secrets. I love the lies between like everyone. Everyone has some sort of like drama and tension and lie and secret with each other, and I was here for it. I really, really was. I will say though, the B plot with like the groundskeeper and the manager of the resort place, that honestly could have been cut just because that whole thing added nothing to the plot. It really didn't. There was no reason for it to exist. Next is Together in a Broken World by Paul Michael Winters. This YA dystopian romance centers on these two boys who meet and try to survive traveling the wastelands of the US after essentially a zombie apocalypse has struck. They're both trying to get to Seattle, one guy because he's delivering a vital ingredient to a team of researchers trying to develop a cure, and the other just wants to see if his loved ones survive the apocalypse. And along the way, feelings are caught. And I DNF this one. My god. I tried to force myself to finish this one and I just couldn't. Like it was a slog, honestly. Bland. That's the word I would use to describe this one. Just bland overall. The characters did not feel real. The world building was dull. My God, there was no sense of danger at all for the main characters, which I'm sorry, that's kind of like very, very important when you're writing a dystopian book. Like I should feel that like, oh my God, even though it's a romance and I know that like they're gonna end up together, like I should still feel like, oh my God, it's an apocalypse. The bitches are in danger. Like these guys are in danger. And I just never did with this one. I really, really didn't. It always felt like, oh, no big deal, like whatever. And I just have to say, the romance was so boring. The romance is literally just the two of them going it from each other's POV, being like, "Oh my God, he's so attractive. Oh my God, he's so attractive." Just over and over again, just those two repeating that thought in their internal monologues over and over and over again. And I was just like, boring, boring. Anyway. Next is Heavenly Tyrant by Jiran J. Zhao. This new adult sci-fi is a sequel to the book Iron Widow. This one is very different from the first one, so I do have to put some light spoilers to set this one up. AKA, the main character has destroyed the government and is going, well, what now? As she navigates a new society filled with both positive change and new evils to deal with. And I gave this one a 3.75 out of 5 stars. Now, I have to say this. Did I really enjoy the first book? No. But I do follow the author on social media because they're cool. Like, I like to follow them on social media. So, even though I originally wasn't planning on reading this one, when I heard that the publisher was trying to like delay and sabotage the release of this novel because of Zhao's pro-Palestine views, aka good morals, I knew that at that point that I was going to support the author regardless of whether or not I like this or not. So, anyway, But I am happy to report that I kind of did like this. It was kind of fun. I liked it a lot more than the first one, to say the least. Like, is it basically a gigantic, like, 500-page political manifesto? Yes, but I was very interested in what was going on and what was being said from start to finish. And I really did like the main character's growth in this one. I found her to be a lot less annoying than she was in the first one. And I also I have to say, I know some people don't like the different twists and betrayals and stuff, but I kind of found them interesting. Like they were very much giving soap opera, but like I was here for it. I was here for the flair that like the twist and the betrayals were giving. And also, I do have to say, this is going to be a test for people who say, "Oh my God, I love morally gray characters." Like, this will actually put you to the test if you say that you love morally gray characters. Because if you come away from this book viewing a couple of the characters, mainly one of the main dudes, as just straight up evil and you don't like him whatsoever, do you really like morally gray characters? I don't think you can say that. I don't think you can say that. Now, did I like the guy that I'm talking about? No, I found him despicable. But I'm not a person who claims to like morally great characters. Anyway, I will say the last act did start to lose me a little bit just 'cause like eh, eh. And I also don't understand why someone specific was kept alive when I felt that their purpose was fulfilled in this novel, but like, oh well. I was interested enough to kind of want to see what goes on in the next book, so I will check out the next book just because like I'm kind of curious. I will say this, however. Overall, based on Goodreads reviews, the general consensus on this one seems to be if you absolutely loved Iron Widow, you're probably going to hate this one because it's so different from Iron Widow, both tonally, just an overall vibe, and everything that it has going on for it. But if you were like me and you were like kind of like meh on Iron Widow, give this one a shot. You'll probably like it a lot better. Next is The Kill Order by James Dashner. This YA dystopia is a prequel set in the Maze Runner universe about this guy who goes on an adventure with his veteran mentor to uncover government secrets after their village is infected with a deadly virus. And I gave it a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Oh my god. Here's the thing. I have very low expectations for this series. I truly do. But even with that very low bar, this book failed to meet that, in all honesty. It was just boring. It was boring, y'all. It was boring. Oh my God. The lore reveals in this one literally could have been an email. It literally could have been just like a novella. Maybe not even a novella. Maybe just like a short story posted on the author's website. For all that we learn in this novel about the world and the lore and the flare virus and everything and Wicked and whatever, it didn't need to be a novel. It really, really didn't. And the story itself with these people, it was just a bunch of nothing characters doing a bunch of nothing nonsense. Truly, truly. Anyway, next is The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. This YA fiction is about these two strangers and the hijinks that they get up to on voting day. Now, the main girl in question is super passionate about getting people to vote, while the other guy, the main guy, shows up to the wrong voting place and doesn't really know like where he's supposed to go to vote because like he showed up to the wrong place, so he's like, okay, where do I go now? And so the main girl is like, okay, I overheard your little conversation with the lady that like you don't know where to go vote, so get in my car. We're gonna figure this out. I don't know where you gotta go either, but like get in my car. We're gonna make sure that you vote. Okay, okay. And you just kind of follow them over the day as they get up to wacky hijinks, trying to get this guy to vote and everything. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was cute, it was fun. I enjoyed the message of this one of like, yay, go vote, because like. Yes, even though I am someone who hates the electoral college system and believes that it kind of makes voting irrelevant, like still go vote. I go vote in pretty much every single election that I can know of. Like, bitch, go vote. Anyway, so like I do enjoy the message of this one of yay, go vote. And also I kind of just really like the vibes of this one. Like it's like one of those like cozy family movies about like someone having like a very chaotic day that would like play on Disney Channel a lot. Like I don't know, like if you know, you know. Anyway, but like overall, I really enjoyed being on the journey for this one. It's just fun. It was very cute. Next is From the Desk of Zoe Washington by Janae Marks. This middle grade contemporary centers on a girl whose birth father has been in prison her entire life for allegedly murdering someone. On her 12th birthday, she gets a letter from him and then starts getting to know him via letters. They become pen pals where she finds out that her father may have been wrongly convicted. So, with the help of her best friend, and of course, keeping all of this a secret from her parents, she sets out to find evidence that proves her father's alibi and proves his innocence. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. Now, if you had told me at the beginning of 2025 that a middle grade would have been one of my favorite books of the year, I would have laughed in your face. Because, like, no, like, there's no way for that. I'm too fucking old for that. But, like, here we are. Here we are. Like, yes, I freaking love this series. Like, I love the tone. I love Zoe as a protagonist. I love the plot. I love all of the baking stuff going on. And I loved how the author was able to, like, balance, the expected typical middle grade lightheartedness that like I said, you expect from a middle grade with the more serious social justice conversation that she wanted to have in this one. But the thing that I most respect about this novel is that the author never dumbs down what she wants to say in this one. Like, she fully trusts her younger readers to understand and empathize with the topic of injustice and racial inequality in the justice system of the United States. Like, she really does trust like her middle grade audience to understand and get this topic and to like learn something new. She really, really does, and fully respect that, and I love that. Next is The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Huang. This adult literary romantic fantasy is about these two lovers who end up finding each other again and again throughout different lives. It follows three different time periods: an emperor and a courtier in 4 BC, an innkeeper and traveler in the 1700s, and two college kids in present day. And you witness the two souls be drawn together in each life. And I unfortunately DNF'd it. Now, first of all, I do have to say, the cover, gorgeous, gorgeous. Second of all, I just, I don't go for literary fiction because I often find the genre to be very boring. And while I was hoping that because this was like, kind of a romantasy, I was kind of hoping that this would be like the one time literary fiction would not be boring to me. I was wrong because I was still bored. So, yeah, I will say, with that in mind, I just think that I'm the wrong audience for it, and that in the right audience, like if you are someone who loves literary fiction and loves romance and whatever, you probably might like this. I can see this in the right audience being a poetically, tragically beautiful novel, but in my hands, because I'm not really into literary fiction, it was just kind of boring. Moving right along into August, we have Thank You for Sharing by Rachel Runya Katz. This adult romance is about this woman who works as a junior curator at a museum and a man who works at a marketing firm. When the museum approves the woman's new proposed exhibit, the guy is hired to help promote it. Now, these two were once childhood friends, but they had a falling out during summer camp and haven't spoken for over a decade. However, being paired up on this project, they start to reconnect and develop feelings for one another. And I DNF'd it. Oh my god, the main lady was very annoying. Like, honey, you are still hung up over some summer camp competition from 14 years ago? You're still mad about it? Move on. Please move on. My god. And the main guy was also very annoying. Like, oh my god, can you please try not to think about wanting to hook up with the main lady for like 5 seconds? Please, please, please. Oh my god. Anyway. Next is Evil Eye by Etef Rum. This adult women's fiction is about this Palestinian American woman stuck in a pretty conservative marriage and life who has almost always done what's traditionally expected of her, even at the detriment of her own dreams and goals. She starts going on this journey of unpacking her generational trauma and discovering her value as a human being, not just her value as a mother and wife, and trying to take back her life and finally make it her own. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. Now, I have to say, this was quite relatable in its feelings and everything, which was very surprising because on the surface, nothing about this woman or her life or her circumstances at all resembles or is relatable to me whatsoever. But don't judge a book by its cover. That's all I'll say. I will say that I don't really want to get into everything that this book meant to me while I was reading it, so I will just say that I really enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the journey, and I enjoyed the writing. Next is The Grimoire of Kings by Blake R. Wolfe. This adult question mark fantasy is about this guy and his friends who get transported to another dimension to live out their D&D dreams. And I DNF'd it because while I don't normally try to DNF things on the first chapter, this was an exception because I could tell from chapter 1 that I was going to find it very, very annoying, so I just didn't want to deal with it. Next is Never Coming Home by Hannah Mary McKinnon. This adult mystery centers on a man who hired a hitman to kill his very rich wife. The plan seems to have gone off without a hitch, nobody can find the body, the police don't suspect him, mother-in-law is about to die and leave him with even more money, so, he all he's got to do is just like sit back and wait now, but that is until he gets a letter from a mysterious sender that appears to imply that somebody knows what he's done and wants to see him come to justice. And I gave it a 3.1 out of 5 stars. Now, this is a popcorn book, and I mean that in a very positive way. Oh my god, I hated the main guy. I really, really did. But like you're supposed to. You're supposed to hate him. You are supposed to root for his downfall and want to be like chanting at the book like, "Somebody please! To bring him to justice. Somebody please find out where the woman is. Somebody please find out his murder weapons and all this shit." You're supposed to feel that way. You were supposed to hate the main guy. So I had a lot of fun with this one. I really, really did. And I also have to say that this is just more evidence that British writers write domestic thrillers a lot better than Americans do, even when the story is set in America. Next is On the Plus Side by Jenny L. Howell. This adult romantic coming of age story is about this bigger woman who struggles with self confidence but wishes she could put herself out there more. She gets nominated to be on her favorite reality makeover show, On the Plus Side, where she goes on a confidence journey and ends up hitting it off with the hunky cameraman. And I gave it a 2.9 out of 5 stars. Everything was perfectly fine. Like, nothing was really great, nothing was really terrible. Like, the plot was fine, the writing was fine, the characters was fine, the romance was fine. It was all just fine. Every element of this book was just passable slash good enough. But in all honesty, I kind of was ready to be done with it at about the halfway mark. So, you know. Next is Emma by Jane Austen. This new adult classic is all about the life of this vain and bitchy young woman named Emma. She loves to play matchmaker with the people in her life, and that often leads to some messy drama and hurt feelings. And I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, this was honestly the Austen novel that I struggled the most to connect with because everything was perfectly fine, but nothing was stand out like in her other novels. Like, it all just felt very standard, from like the plot to the characters to the conflict to the tone. It was just all eh, you know. Oh well. Next is All My Rage by Saba Tahir. This YA literary contemporary centers on the daily trauma of these two Pakistani teens desperately trying to navigate their emotions and carve out better lives for themselves. Salahuddin recently lost his mother and now has to shoulder the responsibility of running his family's failing motel and paying off the mountains of debt since his father is a useless drunk. Meanwhile, Nur is trying to secretly get into college so she can finally escape life living in a small town under her tyrannical uncle's rule. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars, and this is my favorite read of the year. Oh my god. This book is beautiful, and I will not hear a word against it. You hear me? Don't even start. Just don't even start. Oh my God. Again, this is one of those books where if we lived in a just world, this would be taught in schools as a modern day classic because of everything that it has to say in its themes. Oh my God. The pain, the anger, the hurt, the fear, the rage, all of it. It just keeps building and building and building as the layers of what is going on in these kids' lives just keeps getting revealed and you come to love them more and more as the story progresses. Like, oh my God, Tahir does an amazing job of getting you to feel the emotions that these characters are feeling. Like, there were literally times when I had to legitimately put this book down and just walk away from it even though I wanted to keep reading and find out what happened next, but I literally couldn't because they were experiencing things that were making them so freaking angry, and I was feeling the same rage that they were. Like I could feel the anger and the hurt and the rage that they were experiencing building in my chest as well, like a hurricane. And I was like, okay, I have to stop. I have to stop. I have to stop. Like I have to stop. Like I need to breathe. I need to take a breath. Like it's okay. She's just such an amazing writer. She really, really is. I love everything by Sapa Tahir. She's one of my favorite authors. And I have to say, finishing this left me with that same, like, heavy yet relieved feeling you get after you have, like, a good hard cry, in all honesty. Which, yes, there were tears shed over this one, in all honesty. So, yeah, I freaking love this book so much. It's so freaking good, y'all. Like, please go read it. Go read everything by Salvatore here. Like, oh my God. Next is Star Wars: The High Republic: Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. This adult sci-fi is the first book in the High Republic era. An unheard of crash in hyperspace causes a ship to explode and its pieces to become volatile projectiles that can wipe out billions of people if they start hitting planets. So, the Republic and the Jedi scramble to end the danger and then investigate what caused this unprecedented disaster and who is responsible for it. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, do you have to start the High Republic with this book? No, I didn't. Actually started in Phase 2. But I do see why this was intended to be the launch of the High Republic and the starting point of it, because it really does set up everything that this era wants to do very well. It sets up the state of the galaxy with like the Republic, where the Jedi are, etc. It sets up the Nihil very, very well. It sets up the characters that we will be following very well, and it sets up just like what this galaxy is like at this point in time and how it's about to change. So yeah, I really, really did like this. I like the characters. None of them were like instant fan favorites, but like I really did like the characters. I like the different plot threads and how like everything came together at the end. And I'm very curious to see like where everything goes and what happens with everyone going forward. And also the space battles were very, very nicely done, which is very much saying something because space battles are never my favorite part. Next is Star Wars: The High Republic: The Great Jedi Rescue by Cavan Scott. This children's book retells part 1 of Light of the Jedi, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, yes, I read this mostly solely for the purpose of inflating my reading count for the year. Sue me! Oh well, everybody does it once in a while, but I will have to say, it's cute, the art is lovely, and it perfectly does what it sets out to do. Like, it's just cute. Next is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This adult dystopia takes place in a world where books are illegal and the state regularly burns books and the people that have them. It centers on a man who is one of the people that carries out these nightly torching raids, but soon has an awakening that things are not right with the situation. And I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. It is my worst read of the year. We just talked about my best read of the year. Let's talk about my worst read of the year. Oh my god. Oh my god. This book pisses me off. I've heard that the author wrote this in like a manic state in a week, and like, yeah, we can tell. It reads like it. Oh my god. Stupid plot. Awful characters that go from dumbasses in one breath to absolute philosophical poets of wisdom in the next, or some shit. Oh my god. Ridiculous world building that falls apart if you think about it for even a second. And oh my god, the commentary. The commentary. Now, I will say that the one interesting thing about this novel is it scarily predicted quite a few things about our modern society. Like, it predicted iPad babies, it predicted mindless media consumption, and it predicted that thing that we are seeing nowadays, especially on TikTok, about how, like, people are kind of taking the attitude of like if a piece of media doesn't make them feel joy, like if it makes them feel like anything else, like sad, scared, whatever, like then they're like, oh my god, it's horrible. Oh my god, get this out of my life. Like, oh my god, this didn't make me laugh. This didn't make me feel joy. Like the horror movie scared me. It's awful. Ugh. Like it did scarily predict quite a few things about our future. However, The way that it goes about commentating on those things, the way that it goes about commentating on the world in which this book was written in, the historical context in which this book was written in, and the way that it goes about trying to predict our future, just how it says its message, how it says the message that it's commentating on was absolutely awful. Just no. Oh my God. And yes, there is heaps of misogyny in this one. Let's just be honest about it. Let's just be honest about it. Like, you can really tell in the text that he thought women were stupid. You really, really can. Oh my God. I hated everything about this book. Oh my God. People are always like, "Oh my God, everybody should read this because it talks about book banning." Like, does it really though? Does it really though? Does it really handle that topic well? No, it doesn't. Anyway, moving on. Moving right along into September, we have The Necromancer's Light by Tavia Lark. This adult romance is about a necromancer on his way to banish a demon from the lands. He needs constant human contact to keep his magic from making him sick, so he hires a paladin to accompany him as a bodyguard. Along the way, the two become quite close, and I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's perfectly fine. Like, nothing outstanding, but nothing horrible either. Like, the plot is passable, the characters are passable, the arcs are passable, the world's passable, romance passable, spice passable, it's all passable. So, moving on. Next is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This classic adult contemporary is about this woman who let the love of her life go several years ago because it just wasn't the right time for them. Now he's back in town, and even though everyone in the family keeps trying to pair the woman up with someone else, her and the original guy are slowly reconciling things and growing closer. And I give it a 3.4 out of 5 stars. Now, I do want at some point in years from now, probably, but at some point in the future, I do want to reread the Jane Austen novels just because I really enjoy them and I think I could get more out of them on a second reread. But this one especially, I feel like I need to reread it because I feel like I didn't fully get it. Didn't feel like um, I didn't get as much out of it emotionally as I should have. So, yeah. Just, I feel like I would enjoy this more on a reread. I don't know, so I can't really have fully formed thoughts on it just yet. Next is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. In this one, the evil Lord Voldemort is back, but no one in Wizard Society wants to believe it, and the government is trying to silence Harry and Dumbledore from spreading the truth. Now, on the development of the pro-slavery subplot, interesting how we go from in book 4 having our main character, aka Harry, be like, oh my God, I'm neutral on slavery. Like, I don't want to get involved. To in this one being like, oh my God, you know what? Hermione actually does need to shut the fuck up. Like, she's so annoying about house elf rights. Like, oh my God, bitch. Like, okay, the slaves like being slaves. Like, just shut up already. Like, oh my God, it's not that deep. Like, we fully have our main character supporting slavery in this one. Lovely development, lovely message to send to our child audience. I can't. Now, okay, going back to a surface level approach, I do find Harry to be annoying in most of these books. I do find that the movies clean his personality up a lot to make him a lot more likable than he is in the books, because in the books I just find him to be annoying and to be a prick, but especially in this one. Oh my God, I can't. I get teenage angst, but this one takes it to a whole another level. Like, oh my God, the constant temper tantrums, the constant yelling, the constant whining and bitching, and just screaming at everything that breathes. Like, oh my God, I literally would not have blamed either Ron or Hermione if at some point during the events of this book they had just like bitch slapped the fuck out of him. Cause like he honestly deserved that. He really did deserve to get his ass beat, in all honesty. Just because like okay, we've been here for like 3 days. We've been back at school for 3 days, and you've already yelled at us like 50 times. Like, okay, get a life. Anyway, this one does introduce my beloved Luna. I do like Luna, and I truly do think that like she deserves a friend group that actually likes her instead of just like tolerates her at best and makes fun of her at worst. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Also, I will say on a more positive note, I do think that the tones of like heavy dread over impending doom and like frustration over what the ministry is doing, I do feel like those tones are conveyed very well throughout this book, so I will say that. Um, Also, I do have to say, back to more negative stuff. The Gorp plot line with like Hagrid's half brother, that whole thing, not needed. Not needed. The whole Gorp thing is not needed at all. It's literally just there because at this point in the storyline, Hagrid has served his purpose as a character, but like we can't get rid of him because he's beloved for some reason. Well, actually, I do get why he's beloved, but like we don't know what the fuck to do with him, so let's just give him some Gorp stuff to do. Like it's not needed. It really is not needed. Anyway, moving on. Next is On Air with Zoe Washington by Janae Marks. This middle grade contemporary is the second book and, as far as right now, final, but hopefully not final, book in the Zoe Washington series. And I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, much like I did the first book. Okay, I will not be too prideful in saying this. I do have to say this. This book did get me to open my mind a little bit more about a topic that I really didn't think much about before. Like it really did get me to like expand my worldview and really start thinking about like, life after prison, even for people who were wrongly convicted, it's pretty hard actually. Like it's not easy to get back on your feet after you've been in jail for a certain amount of time or however long. Like wow, I never really thought about that before until reading this book. Like interesting, interesting. Oh my God, I freaking love this series so much, and I really do wish that there were more books in it because I honestly do believe that like a series like this is needed in children's publishing in like the current political climate of the world, especially in America. So yeah, I really do just like this series, and I wish that there were more series like it. Next is One Wrong Step by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This middle grade adventure novel is about this boy who tags along with his father and a team of scientists as the adults try to be the first people to climb Mount Everest. An avalanche occurs that traps the climbing team on the mountain, so our main character is joined by the daughter of one of the other researchers and the man who was watching them at the base camp, and together the three of them set off to climb Everest and rescue the team before it's too late. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I do have to say this. I know for a fact that 12-year-old me would have loved this just as much, if not a little bit more, than current me does, which I don't know. I just find that kind of funny for some reason. Like, I guess some things never change. Anyway, this is cool. This is fun. This is honestly really thrilling, in all honesty. And never did I think until now that a middle grade, of all things, would make me feel legitimate tension and like keep me guessing as to the fate of characters and whatnot because because yeah, the research team does not have plot armor protection the way that the main characters do, obviously. So you're like, so at least I was always constantly guessing like, okay, are we gonna have them killed? Are they gonna freeze to death? Are they gonna be alive? Like I don't know. I don't know. Like I wouldn't think that they'd be killed off because it's middle grade, but the way that people are talking and the way that things are being framed, the situation isn't looking so good. So like I'm kind of guessing. I'm kind of ooh, I'm kind of interested in seeing how this turns out, you know. But yeah, this was really enjoyable. It's really just fun. Next is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This young adult contemporary classic is about class conflict between the gangs from the poor side of the town and the gangs from the rich side of town. One night, one of the rich gangs tries to jump our main character and his friend, and life for both groups is quickly thrown into chaos when one of the boys is murdered. And I gave it a 3.8 out of 5 stars. Now, I think I've mentioned this before, but let's just go through it again. I had to read this for a class project back in like eighth grade or so, and I really didn't understand it really at all back then. I wanted to read it again this year and be like, can I understand it better? Can I? And yes, I can. I can understand what the fuck is going on a lot better nowadays. Now, I have to say, this was enjoyable. However, it is proof that classic stands will say that anything has god tier writing as long as it gets the label of classic. Because, girl, oh my god, like, classic stands are like, oh my god, the writing quality, like, it's so profound, it's so da 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 da, it's so this and that. And it's like, girl, if you don't know, the author wrote this when she was in high school, a teenager, and yes, it has all of the qualities, both good and bad, of teenage writing. So I'm just saying, classic stands really are not to be trusted. Anyway, having said that, I really do think that this does have merit for being like a classic taught in schools. If for nothing else, then it really does feel like a time capsule with that like raw, unfiltered, emotional writing style. It really does feel like a time capsule of what life was like for young people in similar circumstances to the author and the main character and how they felt about the world around them, during this time period. So yeah, I really do think it really is an interesting read with that regard. Next is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This adult cozy romantic urban fantasy is about this witch who lost her magic several years ago when she brought back her aunt from the dead. Now, as an outcast from witch society, she spends her days running a bed and breakfast in the countryside with her aunt and a talking fox by her side. Eventually, she gets her hands on a spell that can hopefully bring her magic back if she's able to translate it. And the attractive warlock that just checked in might be able to lend a helping hand with that. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Oh, I finally see why people hype up the cozy genre so much because I really did love this. It's just so cute and wholesome. I love the vibe. I love the setting. I love the quirky cast. I love the romance. I love the cozy magic stuff. I love the found family. Like, it was just really, really well done. I just had a really nice time with this one. Next is Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist by Ali K. Mulford and K. L. Morrison. This adult romance is about this witch who drunkenly summons the spirit of her ex-girlfriend because she never got to say a proper goodbye before her ex died. Turns out, summoning ghost has consequences, and now the ghost lady can't leave until the witch actually moves on and starts falling for someone else. Luckily, a cute new barista just moved into town, and I gave it a 1.8 out of 5 stars. Now, I have issues with this one both on an audiobook production level and a story level, so let's tackle those one at a time. Now, my problems with the story are that the character arcs for this one were just like paper thin. The murder mystery subplot that this has just was really not needed. It just was so random. I don't know what the idea behind that whole thing was. I just no. But now, most especially, it really felt like the authors were like speed running what makes a romance book as quickly as possible. Like, that they were just like going through all of of the standard romance beats that you expect in like boom, 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 boom. And it's like, why? Why are we going so fast? Like, let's slow down a little bit. Like, we can pace this. Like, we don't need to rush the ending. We don't need to rush through all the development here. Like, we can slow down. Like, it's perfectly fine. Like, so I just don't know why this thing was trying to rush everything. Like, I don't get that. Now, as for the audiobook production, oh my God. The Guillotine, the Judas Cradle, and the Brazen Bowl for both the editor and that random man who does the male voices. Okay? I'm just saying. Like, here's the thing. I'm gonna read directly from my notes on this one. No one bothered to make the volume of the two ladies, the two main narrators, level with each other. So one narrator was practically whispering while the other was shouting in my ear. Okay? Like, do we see the problem? It does this thing where in scenes where the main ladies are talking to one another, it'll keep switching back and forth between the narrators regardless of whose POV we are in. And I see the vision, but it didn't work out because the audio files are so sloppily edited together that it was just a very disjointed a listening experience. It was just there were like awkward gaps between when like one lady would speak and another lady would speak, and it was just because of the editing. It was just like, why? And oh my God, there is some random man who does the voices of the male characters when they're speaking. And it's just like, I'm gonna be honest, I've never had to look up whether or not an audiobook narrator is real or generative AI until now. 'Cause, yeah. Um, and I can say that and I can say that because when I went to go look for that, I found other people who have read some other books that he did the audiobook narration for, who were also asking whether or not he was AI because he was so just yeah. So just overall, both as a story and a production, chop it, chop it. Sorry. Next is Star Wars The High Republic Showdown at the Fair by George Mann. This children's book tells the tale of the Jedi saving the day when the Nihil commit a terrorist attack on a cultural fair, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's cute, it's fun, the art is pretty, like, it does exactly what it sets out to do. What more do you want? Next is The Lost Sisters by Holly Black. This YA fantasy novella is set shortly after The Cruel Prince, which I read back in 2023, and is basically the main character's twin sister writing a letter trying to explain, apologize, and justify her terrible actions during the main book's events, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, I read this because I was really craving to go back into the Folk of the Air universe, even though I knew for a fact, just because I didn't really enjoy The Cruel Prince. I enjoyed most of the rest of the series, but like I didn't really enjoy The Cruel Prince, so I knew that like this was not going to be a home run for me. Yeah, it was never going to be 5 stars, but like having said that, this was a nice time to spend like an hour or so. I think the audiobook is only like an hour or so. So yeah, it was just kind of nice in that regard, and it does exactly what a novella should do, aka be a side story for fans of the series. Moving right along into October, we have The Fever Code by James Dashner. This YA dystopia is another Maze Runner prequel about the childhood that the series' main character and his friends had been raised by scientists for experimentation, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, did this one answer any questions about the series like it said it would? No. In fact, if anything, it brought up more questions about the plot holes and everything. So there's that. However, the story was mildly engaging. It was a very mildly engaging popcorn book, so that's kind of what I expect from this series at this point. So yeah. Also, this was like the first and only time that I truly believed Thomas and his friends to actually be friends instead of just like people forced to be together. Because in the original trilogy, I swear to God, all they do is fucking fight 24/7. And also, this book cemented my belief that no, despite what fans want to say, Teresa is not an evil witch, but she is just a brainwashed kid who is a product of her upbringing. Also, this one gave me the belief that the best reading order of this series, and this is going to be controversial, I know, but stay with me. I feel like the best reading order for this series is not publication order, but rather timeline order. Hear me out, hear me out. Reading in publication order, going from the original trilogy to the prequels, I feel like that really puts you in Thomas's shoes. Puts the reader in Thomas's shoes, which is obviously the intended purpose. He is the main character, he is the POV character, you are following his journey. So obviously you're supposed to be seeing the world from his lens. However, when the batshit nonsense of this world and its lore starts popping up, when you're in Thomas's perspective, it feels like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we're doing this now. All this random ass shit is just coming out of nowhere. Like, sure, what the hell? I guess the author just didn't really have any other ideas, so why not? We're just doing it anything at this point. However, reading this in timeline order, it puts the reader in Wicked's shoes, so where when you're reading the prequel novels, you get all of the batshit lore out of the way then. You can get fully settled into the wacky ass world building that this series has in the prequel novels. So when random ass shit starts happening during the original trilogy, you can just be like, yes, we knew about this. Let's see how the lab rats react to it. I don't know. Like, I know controversial opinion, but to me, I just feel like the best reading order is probably timeline order, just because it feels a little bit more cohesive and less, oh, okay, we just introduced this random thing for why the hell not? I don't know. That's just my thoughts on this. Next is Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. This adult romance is about a witch who left her hometown years ago and never looked back after a horrendous breakup with a douchebag warlock. Now she has to come back home because there is a generational magical competition between the founding witch families taking place that requires everyone of the houses to be present. Upon coming home, she finds that her best friend and this other really hot witch have also been treated badly by the douchebag warlock and decide to get even with him during the competition. And along the way, our main character and the really hot witch start developing a thing for each other. And I DNF'd it. Now, there's nothing wrong with this book. It was perfectly fine and presentable in every single way. It was just, for some reason, and I don't really know why, but for some reason, every single time that I tried to listen to this, because I was listening to it on audio, every single time that I tried to listen to it, I would just like tune it out as like background noise and just like I could keep up with what was going on, but it was just like every single time that I tried to listen to it, it would just be like, "Oh, oh, okay, we're 20 minutes in, I guess. Oh, we're an hour in." And just like, it gets to a point where like I as the reader deserve a story that keeps me engaged, and the author deserves a reader who will actively engage with her story. So, and that just wasn't happening. So, DNF for that reason. But so, you know. Next is What Lies in the Woods by Katie Alice Marshall. This adult thriller is about this woman who was nearly stabbed to death when she was a child before her two best friends found her just in time. Back then, their testimonies were enough to put the criminal behind bars, and flash forward to today, that man has finally died in prison. But the story the world knows about what happened wasn't exactly the truth, and it has haunted the women ever since. Now, one of the main character's best friends wants to come forward with the truth, and the main character is determined to fill in the gaps of her memory of that day to find out who actually tried to kill her all those years ago. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This was fun. Honestly, this kept me interested from start to finish. It was kind of interesting how, like, I managed to call out who was sus in the book, but the big reveal still managed to be like a surprising twist, in all honesty. Now, I will also say that I find that this was one of the rare books that actually does unreliable narrator very well. I normally don't like that trope because I find it to be like a very lazy way for authors to be like withholding information from the reader and kind of make the reader feel stupid because like, oh, you didn't see this coming, but it's like there was no way to see that coming. Like there were no hints because oh, the narrator's unreliable. So yeah, I don't usually like unreliable narrator, but I liked it really well here because it's set up from the jump that the main character is like, okay, I can't really remember what the fuck happened that day. My mind is fuzzy. Like so I don't know if what I saw was true, if what I saw was false. I'm on a mission to find out what the fuck actually happened so that I can trust my brain again and know the truth of what actually happened. So like I know that I'm kind of unreliable, but I'm trying to fix that. So I kind of like the unreliable narrator trope in this one. So overall, a pretty good time. Next is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And this one is the sixth book in the series. It is time to lock in and really start preparing to deal with Voldemort. Now, let's revisit the pro-slavery subplot, shall we? 'Cause why did we make Harry a canonical slave master? Yeah, no, you heard me right. You heard me right. Canonically, Book Harry is a slave master. That is something that actually happens, and it becomes a decently relevant plot point. Really? And it's framed as a good thing. This is the shit that we're putting in our children's series. Okay. Sure. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, surface level approach. I enjoyed this more than when I originally read it. I'll be honest, Half-Blood Prince was always my least favorite story in the entire series, both the movie and the book, just because I found it really boring. But rereading it this time, I actually found it quite interesting. I would say it's like a top three, top two even in how I would rank the books. I'm glad that this one gave us a lot more needed context about who Voldemort is as a person and why the fuck he's so fucking evil, instead of just, up until now he's basically been just like hidden off page for the most part and be like, ooh, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. So I'm glad that we finally got a lot of information about him in this one. And also, I will say the whole pensive memory stuff, it was a very interesting way of lore dumping without making it feel like lore dumps. Like, let's be honest, the pensive memories are really just lore dumps, but they don't feel like lore dumps. you know, so that's good. Anyway, of all the books that take place at Hogwarts, I will say that this one I find to be has the best balance between like plot relevant Voldemort stuff and like school life drama, who's dating who nonsense. So I really did like that because I found that in most of the other previous books, it was very much like one way or the other. Like there would be sections where it was like, ooh, we're focusing on school drama, and then sections of, ooh, we're focusing on the plot. But this one I actually really liked how it went back and forth, back and forth. So yeah, I do like that. The major gripe that I have with this one is just the relationship stuff because, oh my God, the relationship stuff in this series is by far the weakest link of the entire series. It really, really is. If we exclude all of the problematic elements of these novels, the relationship nonsense is by far the weakest element of this series. Here's the thing. I have to say, I don't like Harry and Ginny just because his crush for her came out of nowhere, and her crush for him just kind of reignited out of nowhere also. It honestly just felt like when it comes to Harry and Ginny, that the author was like, "Oh my God, I need to have my main character have a girlfriend," and then just like closed her eyes and like threw a dart at the wall, and it just landed on Ginny and was like, okay, that's his girlfriend. Yep, that's his endgame. It was like, it was so fucking random. It's so fucking rushed. Like, ugh, oh my God. And then the whole thing with Ron and Hermione, like, oh my God, that the whole thing is just toxic in general. Like, oh my God. I you can't convince me that they would ever be in a relationship with one another, let alone married, because unpopular opinion, I don't think that those two would ever even talk to one another in the entire 7 years that they went to school if it wasn't for their mutual friend Harry. I'm so sorry. Plus, also, I just really don't like Ron. I find him to be MAGA, honestly. I really, really do. So I just can't stand Ron. Anyway, let's move on. Next is Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. This adult fantasy is about this woman who took a college course on the myths and legends about the secret magic of Los Angeles. She really believes magic exists and does end up finding one of the myths, only this one tells her that she is going to die tomorrow night unless she can find an all-powerful relic known as the Alchemical Heart. Now she's thrown headfirst into the magical underworld of Los Angeles, filled with secrets and betrayal at every turn. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, I did warm up to this one enough, like, as the book went on, so I do kind of want to read the next one just to see what happens, and I do believe that a lot of my issues with this one will be resolved in the next one, at least I'm hoping so, like, I really do think that they will be. But for this one, there were two major things that I just had a problem with. One, everything in this novel is surface level. The plot, the characters, the twists, the world building, all of it. All of it is very, very surface level. And two, I honestly feel like Garber struggled to translate her writing style to both urban fantasy and the adult category, because this author's natural writing style is very storybook modern fairy tale. I've always described it that way ever since I first picked up Caraval, honestly, many, many years ago. So, that kind of sort of like modern fairy tale writing style lends itself very well to both high fantasy and young adult, which is what she's written up until this point. So, trying to translate that type of writing voice into like this type of novel, it runs into a few problems. Mainly, Holland has that very youthful, whimsical, naive outlook on the world that, like, say, like Donatella or Evangeline from her previous novels has also. But it works for Donatella and Evangeline from the previous series because they're like 16, 17, 18, whereas it makes Holland look silly. That kind of narrative tone makes Holland look silly because she's 28 years old. Like, girl, like you're still viewing the world as sugar pops and gumdrops. Like, really? You're pushing 30. You're pushing 30, ma'am. Come on. Like, it's time to get a little serious, you know? But then also with the writing itself, in the first half of the novel, Holland is not really aware of the magic of Los Angeles or anything, and you can physically feel the magic in Garber's prose being muted and snuffed out, and it makes for a really boring reading experience. The second half of the novel, when Holland does become more and more aware about the magic of Los Angeles, that magical fairy tale writing style is able to come out a lot more, and Garber is able to write like she naturally does, which from that point onward, it does become a much more interesting reading experience for this novel. But like I said, I do feel like most of my issues with this novel will be fixed in the next one simply because Holland is more aware of the magic of everything, and we have like a baseline of like who's who, what's what, where's where, blah 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 blah. So I do feel like from the jump in the next book, Garber will be able to embrace fully her natural writing style instead of just like trying to like mute it for a little bit because, oh, we need to discover the magic first or whatever, blah blah blah. So yeah. Anyway. Moving right along into November, we have Celestial Monsters by Aidan Thomas. This is the sequel to The Sunbearer Trials, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, unfortunately. Here's the thing, if I hadn't loved the first book as much as I did, I probably would have DNF'd this one, honestly. Just because, like, the plot was whatever, the characters were a lot less likable than they were in the first novel, it was just kind of like, I was just kind of very disappointed with this one. This might honestly be my most disappointing read of the year, honestly. Next is The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. This adult romance is about this woman who hates Christmas but now owns a Christmas tree farm trying to get the farm back up and running. There's this guy who is visiting family for the holidays, and the townspeople want him to bring the reclusive farm lady out of her shell, to which he reluctantly agrees. And I DNF this one because, oh my god. The main lady was an asshole, and the main dude felt like just a doofus, and the nosy ass townspeople were giving cult like energy, honestly. So, yeah, bah humbug. Next is The Blonde Identity by Ali Carter. This adult action romance is about this woman who wakes up with amnesia and is thrown into the world of espionage, as these mobster guys mistake her for her identical twin who is a super spy on the run from the bad guys. She meets this super spy man who knows her sister and agrees to help her find the sister in question and protect her during this whole situation, and things go from there. And I give it a 3.8 out of 5 stars. Now, is this a literary masterpiece? No, not by any means. And the book itself knows that, but that's why it's fun. Because it's lighthearted, it's silly, it's tropey, and the book fully embraces all of that, which I highly, highly respect. Like, honestly, if you just want something very easy to read, like cheesy, action-packed spy romance stuff, here you go. I fully recommend this. And also, I do have to say, if you are someone who likes Stephanie Garber's style of writing, you will honestly like this because, honest to God, this was written the way that I would expect, like, Alchemy of Secrets to be written, in all honesty. So, yeah. Next is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. This is the seventh and final book in the series, and it is the final showdown as we race against time to defeat Voldemort once and for all. Now, on the social justice side of things, we have to discuss two things that I noticed immediately and was extremely bothered by. First of all, on the development of the pro-slavery subplot, we've now moved on from not just saying that slavery is good, but to actively depicting it as a positive thing on page. Yeah. Yes, the whole section about Creature coming around to liking Harry and his friends and then gladly serving them. It's just Rowling painting this picture of, hey kids, if you're just nice enough to your slaves, it's all fine. They'll enjoy being a slave, and you can be a good person because you're a nice slave master. See, my main character is nice to his slave. It's okay. Girl, fuck off. Fuck off. Oh my god. I can't. Anyone who even tries to ever defend the house elf subplot in any of these books is going to hell. I'm sorry. You are. Anyway, also, the other thing that really I found very interesting, to say the least, about this novel is that we are told throughout this entire fucking series that the word mudblood is basically the wizard equivalent of the N-word slur, right? Right. We're basically told that throughout the entire novel. And we're told multiple times throughout the series that anybody who says mudblood, anybody who says that word is just evil. They are a Death Eater, they are going to be evil, they are not a good person, they are a dark wizard, blah, 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 blah. So I find it interesting that Harry, our main character, says that word multiple times throughout this novel, and yet we are never once supposed to question his morals or anything. We are always supposed to see him as the best of best boys. Huh. Interesting. I'm just saying. It's kind of interesting to make up a wizard slur and then have your main character say that slur multiple times. I'm just saying. Now, going back to a more surface level approach, I will say that this is one of the strongest entries in the entire series, which is very interesting because I find the movie adaptations to be some of the weakest of the whole series. So, yeah. I like the dramatic change up of this one of having things primarily set away from Hogwarts. I think it really, really helped to establish how different the world is now that Voldemort is in charge, because even the plot structure that we've grown used to this entire time has been messed up. So that was a very interesting change. I do like that this one is very much full steam ahead on the plot with very little detouring or stopping for random petty nonsense like in some of the previous books. I like that there is an actual sense of danger in this novel and how the characters are put in situations multiple times where sometimes they win, sometimes they get away with just by the skin of their teeth, and sometimes they lose hard. So that it was very interesting that finally, we're just not consistently winning like we are in some of the previous books. Harry is still a Mary Sue, mind you, because he would not be able to figure this shit out without Hermione at all. But he's not as much of a Mary Sue in this one compared to like Chamber of Secrets. Oh my God, in that one he's just handed everything. Jesus Christ. I really do like that pretty much every single character from across the entire series makes a cameo in this one in some way or form, because it really did just like bring things full circle, in all honesty. I like that the image of perfection that both Harry and the reader have built up of Dumbledore up to this point is honestly fractured quite a bit, and that we get to hear and see that, yeah, he really wasn't the perfect guy in all honesty. Like, he really did have a lot of flaws, just like anybody else. I don't like how much time the Grindelwald shit takes up because, like, it doesn't really feel important in all honesty, like, especially with everyone in it being like, "Oh my God, Grindelwald, Grindelwald, Grindelwald." It's like, who the fuck cares? I'm so sorry. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, why do we keep bringing this man up? Like, anyway. But the thing that I kind of do like the most about this book is that if nothing else, she did have the balls to kill off a lot of side characters, a lot of beloved side characters. Not many authors do that. Not every author does that. A lot of authors are like, "Oh my God, no, we're in war, but everybody needs to live. Everybody who is a good guy needs to live." And it's just like, no, like some people are gonna die. It's war. So I really do like that that yes, we are at war. Yes, we are at a huge battle for life and death, and we see that. We feel those stakes. We feel the horrifying evil that Voldemort is capable of because quite a few beloved side characters like Fred or whatever die. They get killed, you know. So I really do like that. I like that a lot of side characters were killed off because it really does add weight and add stakes to everything. Now, I still don't like the endgame ships. It's just you've already heard my thoughts on Harry and Ginny and Ron and Hermione, so we don't need to revisit that. I still don't like the endgame ships, and I still don't like that pathetic attempt at redeeming Snape with that whole oh my God. Always bullshit. Oh my God. It just makes him look like a fucking incel. Like he already was an abusive fucking person because like the dude is literally known for terrorizing children all throughout the entire series. But like that whole thing with his like obsession and stalker tendencies with Lily at the end, it just makes him look like a fucking incel. Like, dude, you've been obsessed with this woman, dead woman, mind you, since y'all were 8 or 10 or something. Like, move on. Like, you're pushing 40, you're pushing 50, you're pushing something. Like, move on. Come on. Like, dude. Anyway, and I do also have to say, oh my God, the climax of this one, the final showdown between Harry and Voldemort, is still fucking boring as shit. I'm so sorry, it is. It's so fucking boring because it is literally just them circling each other, Old West style, monologuing to each other for 20 minutes. It's like, girl, if I was one of the students at Hogwarts during that scene, I would have just been like, sometime today, can one of y'all kill each other already? Like, oh my God, I want to go eat my lunch. Like, come on, come on. Like, oh my God, we've been standing here for 45 goddamn minutes. Like, please fucking cast a spell already. Anyway, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the final book. Anyway, Next is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. This adult fantasy is about these graduate students who journey to hell to try and revive their professor because there's no one with better connections in the field of magical arts, and they want a job recommendation from the best of the best after they graduate. I DNF this one. There's probably some more deeper reasons that they go to hell, in all honesty, but I will never know because, like I said, I DNF this one. Now, I really was looking forward to this one. Honestly, maybe this one is my most disappointing read of the year, in all honesty, because, like, I really loved Babel, I really loved Yellowface, so I was looking forward to this one, and I was so excited for it. But then I got like 3 to 4 hours into the audiobook, and I was just like, okay, like nothing was grabbing me. I was just so bored. The plot, the characters, the setting, the tsunami load of backstory and lore, like nothing was grabbing me, nothing was hooking me, nothing was gripping me. There was just nothing there. I was just bored. And after hearing some booktubers that I enjoy watching say that, like, yeah, it doesn't get really better. Like, it's kind of boring all the way through. I was just kind of like, okay, it can go back to the library. Like, I don't need to finish it, like, anyway. Next is A Series of Rooms by A.J. Barlow. This adult literary romance is about these two guys who meet in a hotel room due to a misunderstanding, but decide to spend the night together anyway. They strike up a little bond, so they decide to start a weekly get-together where every Friday they'll meet in a hotel room and just spend the night talking, studying, or doing whatever together as a little retreat from their stressful lives. Now, the way that I explain this makes their circumstances seem much more wholesome than they are, but that's the best way that I can explain the premise without getting into spoiler territory. And I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, when it's just the leads in hotel rooms talking and getting to know each other, this book works wonders. Like, it really, really does. It works. It really, really does. And most of the book is just that. It is mostly the two main characters, like, spending time together and getting to know one another. So, for the most part, I was very, very interested and invested in what was going on and their relationship growing. But the last, like, 25% expands the viewpoint to involve the side cast a lot more and, like, take place outside of hotel rooms and everything. And at that point, the novel just kind of falls apart for me, honestly, because while I see the vision of what the author was trying to do in the last act, I just don't think it was pulled off very well because the plot stuff felt very rushed, it felt very tell instead of show, and the side cast is very one-dimensional. So it's like, okay, I really don't care about the side characters and how they are interacting with the main two. Like, I just don't care. Like, they're nothing burgers. So it's like, However, I will say on a writing level, I really did like the writing style a lot, and I really did like how this author handled like building the core relationship. So I am curious to keep an eye on this author and see what they come out with next. So yeah. Speaking of which, next I read Doors and Windows by A.J. Barlow. This is a follow-up novella to A Series of Rooms set after the book about the two main characters formally starting a relationship and navigating the beginning stages of healing from immense trauma. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Pretty much everything that I said about the main book applies to this one too. Like, when it's just the leads alone, the book works wonders. It's great. But when side characters get involved, the scene gets very, very weakened because there's nothing to the side characters, so they don't really add anything and they kind of take away. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts, honestly. Next is Jacqueline in Paris by Anne Ma. This adult historical fiction is all about the year that Jackie Kennedy spent studying abroad in France. And I DNF'd it, for now at least. I'll probably return to it someday. The reason that I DNF'd this one wasn't because like I was bored or uninterested or anything. I got this one thinking like, oh, I was in the mood for historical fiction, and then I started reading it, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm actually really not in the mood for historical fiction, so I'm gonna put this down and go pick up like holiday romance because I really was craving some holiday romance, and I just couldn't get that out of my mind when I was reading this one. So I figured like, mood reader over here, like I'm in the mood for something different, so I might as well just pick up what I'm actually in the mood for. And also like trying to force myself to read something when I'm just not in the mood for it. I don't feel like that's a good thing for the author. I don't feel like that's fair for the author. So I will come back to this when I'm much more in the mood for it. Moving right along into December, we have The Merriest Misters by Timothy Janowski. This adult Christmas romance is about this couple who is having troubles in their marriage. Through a series of accidents, they are thrust into becoming the new Santa and Mr. Claus and move to the North Pole and away from the dreariness of normal life. Is this new life of magical adventure and wonder exactly what they need for their love to bloom once more? And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. Oh my God. Do y'all just ever know the feeling of finding a book and being like, this is why I originally fell in love with the genre. Like, oh my God, this was that experience for me. Like this reminded me why I love romance so much. I love the plot, I love the characters, I love their individual arcs, I love the romance itself. It's just I love the setting, I love the tone. I love everything about this novel. It's just so good. It put me in the perfect Christmas spirit. And honestly, I don't know, like it's one of my favorite novels that I read in 2025. So, yeah, I don't know. Next is Yours for the Season by Kate Cochran. This adult romance is about this woman who is home for the holidays and reconnects with a divorcee that she had a crush on a long time ago. They decide to enter the town's annual couples contest as friends, but soon the line between friendship and feelings gets very blurry very quickly. And I gave this one a 3.8 out of 5 stars. Now, I wouldn't say that this is the best written book by any means. Like, if you are someone who hates repeated information, repeated phrasing several times, like, this will drive you crazy the way that this book is written. But I did have a fun time with it. I liked both of the main characters and following them both individually and their love grow over time. And I liked all the like family drama that both ladies had going on in their personal lives. And while romance readers who do prefer the like, ooh, will they, won't they tension, I honestly did like that this one had more of a, you know what? I like you, you like me, so let's just go for it and see where it goes kind of approach. That's kind of different from most romance novels. So yeah. Next is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This classic children's fairy tale is about these kids who discover a gateway to another world and help free its inhabitants from the reign of an evil witch. And I gave it a 3.6 out of 5 stars. Now, I can tell just based off of the writing that this has influenced many, 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 many modern children's authors. And yes, I do mean that as a compliment. I did enjoy the writing. I mean, it was okay. The story overall was okay, but it kind of did fell apart for me as it progressed. Like it started out very nice. I was interested, but once the main kids like get to Narnia and we're told like, "Oh, your arrival has set the queen's demise into motion. Like, congratulations." At that point, they kind of just don't really do anything of importance for the rest of the novel, and it feels like you could have just like cut them out at the 40% mark and the plot would have played out the exact same way. So yeah, it kind of lost me because I like main characters, I like main cast members that have agency and really push the plot forward. And these four just really didn't do that for me. Next is Look Up Handsome by Jack Strange. This adult romance is about a bookshop owner and a famous writer that keep running into each other around town and start forming a bond. And I unfortunately DNF'd it. I just didn't click with the writing. It felt very much like a first draft, where the author is very much still like brainstorming, figuring out where the story and the characters are gonna go, like as they write it. So yeah, it didn't the writing just didn't click for me. Next is A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the sequel to A Fate Inked in Blood, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I quite like this honestly. And yeah, I found it better to be it's better than the first book on both a technical level and a plotting level. I like the twist, I like the development of the main character and her magic, I like the romantic tension, and it really had a pretty nice ending overall. So yeah. Next is Deck the Halls by Max Walter. This adult holiday romance is about a man who is in a state of misery with no holiday plans as he files for a divorce. He gets propositioned by a client from work to spend Christmas at the client's family mansion as a fake boyfriend and decides to go for it because why not? It'll be fun. And maybe this winter wonderland getaway will be enough to melt his icy heart to let someone new in. And I gave it a 3.8 out of 5 stars. Now, sometimes you just need something that is very quick and simple, and that's exactly what this is. It's very bare bones in pretty much every single way, from the writing quality to the plot to the characters to the mystery to the setting to the romance, etc. Like it's all very bare bones. It's very standard basic stuff. But it does have enough holiday cheer to it that it kept it very charming for me. So yeah. Next is Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. This adult romance is about these ladies who go on the absolute worst first date imaginable, but decide to get into a fake dating situation with each other just so their families will finally stop trying to play matchmaker over the holidays. And I DNF this one. It's just look, I know it came out in 2020, but that means that it was written in like 2018, 2019. And it is very, very like 2010s millennial coded, which can be like very cringe for me, and this was. So, yeah, I got like a quarter into it and I just wasn't feeling it. So, yeah. Next is I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm by Mariama J. Lockington. This YA romance centers on a makeup influencer and the new girl at school. They accidentally go viral on social media with people thinking they make for an adorable couple. When brand sponsorships start pouring in and asking for more couples content, they decide to fake being girlfriends online to split the cash. But what if the comments aren't so far off from the truth? And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. This was all right. Okay, first of all, protect Granny at all costs. Like, she's my favorite character. She's hilarious. But really, this type of book is why the requirement to be classified as a romance is happily ever after or happily for now. Because this couple is not making it past the school year. I'm so sorry they are not. Like, I like the main characters, I like them as individuals, I like their lives separately, but pair them together and it's just a whole lot of bickering and arguing and fighting that you just can't root for them to be together. So, yeah. Next is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This adult historical fantasy is about this lady who accidentally unleashes the god of death and is thrust into an adventure doing the god's bidding, with failure resulting in her demise. And I DNF'd this one. I just was not feeling the writing style at all. It came off as very, very stilted to me, so I DNF'd it. Next is Nothing More to Tell by Karen M. McManus. This is a YA thriller. So, 4 years ago, three kids found their teacher's body in the woods, but it's clear there's more to the story than they ever told. Now the MC is trying to find out the truth about what really happened in the forest on that day. And I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This was just honestly very all over the place. Like, that's the best way to describe it, because when all of the pieces like come together and like everything is revealed and everything is just a very jumbled mess, in my opinion. It really, really is. Like, literally, who the killer is isn't even revealed until the epilogue, and even then, it's just the main character's speculation. I mean, plausible speculation, but still just speculation. So, I mean, granted, I called who the killer was from the jump, but still. And the cast is quite underdeveloped, so none of the reveals or truths or anything really hit emotionally, and yeah, Next is Just Our Luck by Denise Williams. This adult romance centers on a woman who ends up winning the lottery. She accidentally leaves her winning ticket behind after a one-night stand, and the guy she hooked up with tries to find her and return it. His call to find her goes viral on social media, with people believing them to be an actual couple. This virality is mutually beneficial, with his donut shop gaining a boost of popularity and her finally looking like she has a stable relationship to her family. So the two of them decide to keep up the charade of pretending to be a couple until the hype dies down. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I like this, but I felt like it lacked polish. Like, I like the cast, I like the romantic chemistry, and I like the humorous banter that all of the cast has with each other. But I feel like there were just way too many ideas and not enough time to develop all of them. And the ending felt really, really rushed. Like, I'm sorry, the person who got forgiven for doing that terrible thing. I'm not trying to spoil anything, obviously, but the person who got forgiven, I felt like while it was reasonable to forgive them in the end for what they did on accident, they just were forgiven way too easily and quickly, in my opinion. So yeah, the ending felt rushed. Anyway. Next is Tallulah's Ice Skates by Marilyn Singer. This children's picture book is about a girl who goes ice skating for the first time, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Yes, the only reason that I read this was to be able to push my reading count to 90 books so that I could say I read 90 books this year. Yes, I fully admit that. I fully admit that. I fully admit that. Anyway, it's cute and it's exactly what you expect it to be, and the illustrations are quite pretty. So, yeah, it's cute. And the final book that I read in 2025 is Cinder House by Freya Marks. This adult fantasy novella reimagines the Cinderella fairy tale with her as a ghost, and I gave it a 3.6 out of 5 stars. Now, I am a sucker for anything Cinderella related. I always have been, I always will be. So, yeah. And this, honestly, I will say, is a pretty solid retelling and it is pretty interesting. The author does a really great job of like conveying the different emotional tones throughout the story of like, suffocating dread to endless loneliness to dreamy wonder, all throughout the different points of where you would expect Ella's emotions to be at during the story. So, yeah, I really did like that. The third act does fall a little bit flat for me, in all honesty, but I also can't really imagine how else you would end a Cinderella Ghost retelling, so I don't know if that's really a fair criticism or not, so I don't know. I will say though, one thing that did bother me was I feel like the official description for this is kind of misleading because the official description is like, oh, it's a queer Cinderella retelling. And while that's technically true, the comments on Goodreads agreed with me that it felt more like the official description was marketing this as like a sapphic Cinderella story when it's just not that. It really isn't. So when I figured that out, I was like, oh, that's a little disappointing. I was expecting one thing, but okay. Like, okay. But overall, it's pretty nice. It's pretty good, especially since it's only like 136 pages. So yeah. And that is everything that I read in 2025. In total, I read 90 books with a total of 23 DNFs, which brings the total count to 112, although really I'm only counting 90 because I only read and finished 90. But anyway, my overall average rating for the year is 3.6 out of 5 stars. That is only counting the books that I actually finished. That is not counting the DNFs. The DNFs, it lowers it to a 2.9 out of 5 stars, but let's focus on the positive. 3.6, honestly, not a bad year. That's honestly pretty positive, especially considering there are so many books here. But yeah, obviously here on screen is the summary of where I ranked everything. So yeah, tell me in the comments what you thought of my opinions on any of these books if you have read any of them. Tell me what you read in 2025. What were some of your favorite reads? What were some of your least favorite reads? Please use my comment section to rant about any books that you absolutely hated last year. Because Lord knows that I am a nosy bitch that loves to listen to people rant about things, especially when it comes to books. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, subscribe, and I already told you to comment, so comment something. Anyway, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.